Today we got a story time with this girl that was complaining that, her math class was unfair even though she just wasn't studying, and it got to the point where her mom got involved and threatened to sue the school. I'm not even kidding. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. And let's call the subscriber who sent in today's story, let's call him Benson. So this all happened one day when Benson was just scrolling on TikTok, and this girl in his class who he didn't even follow popped up on his For You page, and she made a video that basically went along the lines of like, my math class is so unfair, like, everyone else is doing well and I'm not doing well. However, I'm trying harder than anyone. I think the teacher secretly has something against me. Guys, I don't know what to do. The video got like a couple thousand likes, so it definitely kind of like blew up on a mini scale, but that's the reason why the kid even saw it on his For You page in the first time. And then he decided to go to this girl's account, and he saw like all of these videos, like all posted in the span of like a week, talking about this math class that he had with her. And these videos were saying, like, they were spanning from, like, this teacher, he's failing me in this class because, like, I'm a woman and he doesn't want to see a woman succeed. Or she even said, like, oh, like, my mom probably rejected him in high school and he's taking it out on me. Basically, all of these, like, reasons for why she's failing the class, right? So anyways, Benson's like, damn, all right, like, okay, I guess you're not doing well in my math class then. That kind of sucks. And anyways, next day rolls around and he's at the lunch table and he's talking with his boys, and he pulls out the TikToks. He's like, dude, did you see these? And they're like, no. So he shows them to them and they're all like, wow, like that's kind of crazy. But then one of them said, hey, like, I'm kind of like, I have seen those TikToks before and I'm friends with her friends. And apparently, like, she has never even studied for a math class once. Boys and girls and everyone else watching this video, bro, let me give you a little piece of advice. If you want to do well, prepare. All right, that's all my advice. That's all I'm going to say. So anyways, right, Benson was like, oh, so she's not studying, and she's like saying that it's like everyone else's fault. Basically, right. Anyways, eventually skip forward to math class of that day. Benson was kind of sitting there, not expecting anything crazy to happen that day, and he'd be wrong. Because that day in math class, Benson was kind of just sitting there trying to pay attention. I mean, the material was hard. I can't really blame this girl for not doing well in it. I've not done well in math classes back in the day. I understand what it's like. But anyways, right, Benson is sitting there trying to like pay attention when, this girl like gets up and she's like, this math class is unfair and I've had enough of it. And the teacher looks at her and says, like, hey, like, it's not unfair. I'm going to need you to sit down and not interrupt the lesson. Kind of a fair response. And the girl's like, I know that you're specifically giving me a worse grade than anyone else because you don't like me specifically. And I don't know why, but I know it's true. And the teacher looks at her and says, I don't look at the names when I grade the papers. Like, I specifically cover up the names to make sure that I have no bias when grading these. And the girl kind of stops for a second because she's like, oh, snap, like maybe it's actually me. Nope, it's not actually her. She's like, no, that's not true, and sits back down and is like very quiet, but obviously very angry. So anyways, Benson doesn't think much of it. Until something crazy happens the next day. He comes into class, and the girl, we're just going to call her TikTok girl because she made the videos on TikTok. At this point, TikTok girl is not in class, and Benson's like, oh, is she skipping? Dude, they're in 7th grade. Like, in college, people skip all the time. Hey, man, I've slept through a class or two. But in, like, middle school, you never skip a class. But anyways, Benson was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, she's never, like, no one ever skips classes. I don't know why she's skipping right now. But anyways, right, it's about 5 minutes into class, and the teacher's like, hey, has anyone seen TikTok girl? Said her actual name, but you know what I mean. And everyone's like, no, I don't actually know where she is. So he's like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to mark her as absent. That's kind of weird. I've never had to do this before, but okay. So anyways, right, they're just sitting in class, the teacher's going about the day as usual, when the TikTok girl and the TikTok girl's mom storm into the classroom, and the TikTok girl's mom kind of leads the way and says, like, Mr. We'll say Davenport. Dude, I use that for the last name of every teacher, just deal with it. She's like, Mr. Davenport, I demand that you change my daughter's grade on the recent examination immediately, or I'm going to, like, report it to the principal or the administration that you're discriminating against her for some reason. And the teacher's like, whoa, hello, Mrs. TikTok girl, like, welcome to the class. Like, I didn't know that we had a meeting scheduled. Kind of like a little bit of a light joke. And she's like, I take this very seriously and you're joking around. Like, I know that, like, I don't know why, but for some reason, I know that, like, I know that my daughter did better and you're taking points away from her because you have a grudge against her for some reason. And, Mr. Davenport explains very calmly that he said to her, the TikTok girl earlier when she complained the day before that no, he covers up the names, when grading the papers to make sure, first of all, he said he would never actually, why would he, give a preference to a student? And second of all, to make sure that he has no, subliminal bias or anything, he covers up the names. And, the mom says, I don't believe you. I think you're making that up. If you don't change the grade on my daughter's paper right now, you're making a huge mistake. And Mr. Davenport looks at her and is like, kind of savagely, he's like, I guess I'm making a big mistake then. And the TikTok girl's mom is like, oh, have it your way. Grabs the TikTok girl's arm, is like, all right, we're leaving this school. And they just barge out of the classroom. At this point, Benson is sitting there in complete shock because it was strange enough already that the TikTok girl had an outburst in class, but the fact that she brought her mom in to demand a grade change in front of everyone, didn't send an email, didn't go to the administration, didn't schedule a meeting, just burst into class randomly and demanded a grade change is just completely crazy. However, it doesn't end here. Real quick, comment TikTok down below if you want to heart on your comment. It's the secret word of the day. I'm going to be trying to heart as many comments down below that say TikTok. But anyways, right, so at this point, Benson thought that was the last of it. He really thought his mom was going to go in, that the TikTok girl's mom was going to go in there and do kind of a scare tactic, try to force a better grade out of it. But no, right, one day Benson, or a couple days later, Benson gets into his car and his mom's like, so have you heard the news? And Benson, who's in 5th grade, is like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, did you hear TikTok girl, says their actual name, but did you hear TikTok girl's mom is gonna file a case against your math teacher in the school? And at this point, right, Benson's like, hey, bro, what? An actual case? Are you serious, dude? And, Benson's mom's like, yeah, I saw it on Facebook. Apparently, it's very official. So anyways, right, it's the school is very weird for the next couple days. In the classroom, there's legitimately a school lawyer present while Mr. Davenport's trying to teach. And Mr. Davenport is not doing a good job teaching because he's under a lot of pressure right now. And sure enough, right, the TikTok girl obviously did not come to class during the whole thing. And it was kind of the talk of the school at the time. Benson and his friends were at the table do you think, she's going to win the case? Do you think the school is going to go under? Do you think Mr. Davenport's going to be, fired or whatever? And, anyways, eventually, one day Benson gets into his car and his mom's like, so, did you hear the news? And Benson kind of looks at her like, dude, I'm in 5th grade. How would I hear any of this except if it's from you? And so Benson's mom goes on to say, so apparently, the case eventually got in front of a judge. And the judge completely rejected it, saying that it's on baseless grounds, and that in fact that they should be lucky that he doesn't fine them for a waste of the court's time and resources. And at this point, right, Benson's like, yo, that's crazy. So they lost the case, and Benson's mom's like, yeah, and it's not only that they lost the case. Apparently, right, the TikTok girl and the TikTok girl's mom was since they made such a public stance and such a firm stance on winning the case, they were so embarrassed by losing the case that the TikTok girl's mom did not only pull the girl out of the school system, the local school system, they full on moved. The house, Benson's mom's like, hey, I'll show you. Because, the TikTok girl didn't live that far away from Benson. They made a pit stop before they went back to the house to see the TikTok girl's house. And there was a for sale sign in the house, in the yard of the house, and there were no cars at the house either. They had fully moved out. And Benson's like, wow, this all could have been avoided if the TikTok girl actually studied, dude. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it. In today's subscriber story, this girl in class who's known for being wild gets caught by the teacher doing, well, you'll have to watch to find out. Enjoy. So this subscriber was telling me about this girl in his class, right? And this girl was known for being a little sketchy, right? She was kind of involved with some of the kind of the wrong people. She wasn't involved in anything too serious. For the sake of this story, let's call this girl Salone. So the subscriber heard of this story that Salone had broken into the teacher's office after hours when he was gone, shuffled through his drawers, through his desks, whatever, right? And found the test that was coming up. This was a month ago he heard about this, right? Or a month before the story that I'm going to tell, which is pretty crazy, right? Before that happened. A month before the event, which you're about to hear, he basically heard that Salone found the tests in advance by breaking into the office, put them all into Google to figure out the answers. This was a math class, by the way, so it's not oh, like like an English class or like a very subjective answer type thing. It was a very much, this is the math problem, this is the answer. So Salone allegedly, right, and turns out to be pretty true, but allegedly at the time, he was told that she, broke into the office, stole all these like papers, and then went on to find the answers, made a massive answer key, and sold it to people in advance of the test. So on the day of the story, right, it was a massive math test. It was like the final test of the semester. And there's a trimester actually. They had like a fall, a winter, and a spring like trimester. At the end of each of these trimesters was a massive test that accounted for a very large percentage of their grade, right? I think it was like 20% per test. So like 60% of the, of your grade would be these 3 tests throughout the year. So people studied a lot for them. They spent many hours in the library preparing for these tests. However, right, not everyone was either A, confident that they could like pass these tests through studying, or B, just didn't really feel like it, or even C, like they studied really hard, but they just wanted to back up. So basically, right, Cassidy, who had been rumored to be selling tests, was confirmed to be selling test answers. So this subscriber tells me that the day before the massive test, that he was hearing rumors that if you wanted an answer key that you would be able to get during the test to, contact Cassidy, give her $20 up front. In the day of the test, you'll receive the answer key. It'll be really like incognito and like you'll be able to use it during the test and you'll basically have all the answers then and there. And there's like no need to study or anything. You just got to give her the $20 up front and then she'll get it to you on the day of the test. The subscriber who sent in the story, which by the way, sent in the stories to my Instagram, it's in the description. Anyways, the subscriber who sent in the story was pretty sketched out by this, which honestly, I cannot blame him because like, just like randomly someone is like, oh yeah, pay me $20 up front and I will get you the answers to this test on the day of the test. That's sketchy, bro. That's really sketchy. So while the subscriber didn't pre-order answers from Salone, I was gonna call her Cassidy for some reason, right? So while the subscriber didn't pre-order anything from Salone, he knew that he heard that about 1/3 of the class ended up pre-ordering this test, right? So Salone made a pretty big bag like the day before. And apparently the thing was this test was really hard. This was like some kind of this was a very hard unit, so kind of understandably, a lot of kids did this. I never condoned doing it, but this wasn't an easy test and people were lazy. They were just getting absolutely smoked. And Salone knew this, and she knew she was going to make quite a bit of money from this. So it's the day of the test. They all walk in, and the teacher's like, all right, class, sit down. We're going to wait 5 minutes for everyone to come before I hand out the test and we begin. So, right, everyone is there, and people kind of expected for, Salone to hand out the test answers an hour before, or they meet in the morning, or they meet at lunch, because this class happened to be after lunch. But no, Salone's like, don't worry, I'll get it to you before then. So everyone was, not everyone, but 1/3 of the class, the ones who bought these answers from Salone, were getting a little bit stressed out. And, the clock is running because they get 5 minutes before they start. And it's 2 minutes now. So 3 minutes have passed. It's 2 minutes before they start. And the teacher's like, all right, still waiting for a couple people. Feel free to just walk around, stretch. Don't be too worried, guys. This won't be too hard. Complete cap. It was super hard apparently. But anyways, right. Eventually, 1 minute before the test is being handed out, Salone kind of barges in, right? She kind of barges into the class and she's kind of panting a little bit and she's completely disheveled. Apparently she mixed up the times and was late and she gets in there and everyone's kind of looking at her what? I paid you $20 to give me the answers. It's a minute before the test. So she starts walking into class and you can see in her hand, she's being incredibly blatant about it. She just has a stack of papers in her hand. They were kind of folded up. So that they weren't massive sheets of paper, but they were little kind of folded up things. And the subscriber who knows what those are just oh my God, everybody is screwed. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a presentation done so poorly. I've never seen the bar be set so low and then somehow it's below the bar. So Salone starts walking over to certain people, right? She's walking over and she has this backpack on her back, right? And she has about three folded up pieces of paper, and she looks at someone, just hands it to them. And they're just completely taken off guard because they just assume they're right. Like, they're like, no, this isn't actually how Salone's going to be passing out the answers to this massive test. Like, on a piece of paper that the teacher sees a minute before the test is being handed out. But she does, and she hands it out to the first person, and they kind of like dodgily look around. They take it. They're like, okay, thanks, bro. Like, I appreciate it, I guess. I did pay you $20 for you to barely get me answers, right? And also so untimely, and also so not incognito as you claimed it would be, but whatever, right? So she starts handing out answers, and the teacher doesn't notice. He's like going down into his desk, preparing he's preparing to, grab all of his papers and hand them out. So Salone keeps handing out these papers, and the subscribers is sitting there like, how is she getting away with this, right? But he also notices that she only has 3 answer keys in her hand, right? And 20%, about a third of the class asked for them and prepaid for them. And there was about 30, 35 people in the class. So 3 is not the equivalent of, 10 to 12, 13 people. Those are not the same number, believe it or not. I know I had to do a lot of complex math right there. But anyways, right? Salone hands out the other 2 answer keys, and she runs out, right? So she unzips her backpack, and she's just kind of like rustling through it. And the teacher, who is now done looking down, right, because he was just looking down to grab all of his papers, looks up and starts going around the room. And it's unlucky timing for Salone because she reaches out and grabs pieces of paper and is in the process of handing one to someone when the teacher, who is starting to look around and is like about to say like, oh, Salone, like, go to your desk, like, we're handing out the test, is like caught off guard because he was about to say that, right, just to go back to her desk. But he notices that there's like paper that's folded up in her hand that she's passing out to people. And he's like, Salone, what do you have in your hand? And she just freezes. She's like, nothing of importance. He says, no, like, legitimately, we're about to take a massive test, and you're handing out paper to people. Like, that's not allowed. Like, I don't know what's on this paper, but like, that's not allowed. And unless you have a good excuse, like, I don't know what to say. And she's just like, and everyone who like received the piece of paper already was just sweating bullets, dude, because they know that since they had the piece of paper, they would be in trouble too. And the people who like Salone had not handed it out to were like, bro, I'm down $20. I'm down $20, but at least I'm not about to fail this test. So the teacher starts walking over to Salone, and she's just like, like, no, it really isn't anything. And everyone's just like, dude, you're choking so bad. And she's like, and the teacher just grabs a piece of paper out of her hand. And he unfolds the paper, and he just looks down at it. And the subscriber looks at the teacher's face, and the teacher's face goes from like an expression of like a kind of a blank expression to a you have no idea what you just did expression. The secret word of the day is window. So if you made it this far into the video, comment window in the comment section down below. I just like to see how many people made it this far into the video, as I do appreciate people watching my videos all the way through, or pretty close to the end, right? And also, I'll leave a heart on as many of those comments as I possibly can. So if you want to farm some hearts and get top commenter, here's a good way to do it. Also, becoming a channel member is an option. No pressure to do it, like no pressure at all, right? You got a cool thing next to your name when you comment, and I'm more likely to reply to the comment instead of just hearting it. But anyways, back to the story. Anyway, so where we left off was the teacher came over, grabbed the piece of paper out of Salone's hand, and was just looking at it, and it obviously had the answers on it, and his face just completely turns. And he's like, show me your backpack. And she says, no, I don't want it. And he's like, he just takes the backpack. Maybe he was a little out of line for just taking a student's backpack, but they were obviously handing out answers, which is a pretty big violation. So he was like, nah, I'm taking this backpack. So he walks up to the front, basically where his desk is, and, with the backpack. And Salone is following behind like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like, I'm so screwed. And the subscriber is just looking here like, oh my God. And then kind of thinks to himself, like, maybe the test will be delayed. Haha, I'll get another day to study or something. But, obviously there are bigger concerns right now, and that is what is about to go down. So the teacher brings the backpack to the front of the desk. Then he does something on his phone, and then he just picks up the backpack, and he unzips it, and he doesn't, like, throw it on, like he doesn't like spill it out really like, aggressively just in case there's like a computer or something in there, but he gently like spills the content of the backpack out, and out on the desk is wads of 20s, right? Not like hundreds of 20s, right? There was only so many kids in the class, but a bunch of $20 bills, a bunch more of these answer keys, and some other stuff that I can't mention on the channel that, maybe she was like using that money to buy and, hang out with the wrong crowd and do stuff with, right? I'll leave it at that. So basically, a lot of detention and potentially expulsion all over the desk. So remember, this is in front of the whole class. Everyone is just sitting completely still in their seats, right? Completely still in their seats, just looking at what's happening, right? They're just looking at the desk, and they all just go even more silent than before, if that was possible, when the contents of the bag spilled, because they're like, oh no, dude, like it's really GG, game over. She's done. So Solone just gets in like, not a staring contest, but just ends up just staring directly at the teacher. And the teacher looks up from the big pile of stuff that will get her in a lot of trouble, right? And just looks back at her. And, it felt like minutes, right? But it obviously wasn't minutes. The subscriber said objectively it was like 10, 15 seconds, but it was the longest 10 to 15 seconds of his entire life. And they're just staring at each other. And Solone has a few options, right? She can just be like, come clean. She can explain everything. She can say, I'll just go to the principal's office, right? Or she can do the very special third option that was not really obviously an option until she made it one. Solone looks at the teacher, turns around towards the door, and bolts out of the classroom. The whole class is even more stunned at this point than before because Solone literally just ran away. But as she bolts out of the classroom, she bumps directly into the principal, who's like a 6-foot, very big man. He's like kind of like built like a big bear, right? And the reason why the principal was at like the front of was right outside the door of the classroom was right before, the teacher opened up the backpack. He went on his phone to text the principal to come down immediately and that he needed his backup, right? Because he had no idea what he was like getting himself into. So if he never texted the principal, Solone would have been free more or less to run out of the classroom. But she just ran into the principal and was like, and the teacher was like, just started looking at her. The principal looked at her. The class looked at her. And eventually Solone was like, I'm sorry, I'll escort myself out. And Solone, the principal, the teacher, and the backpack all, all went down to the principal's office. And the teacher, before leaving the class, said, everyone leave, I'll have an investigation to see who, was trying to buy answers. But anyways, test is postponed for a week. If you want to support the channel, watch another video, and the easiest way to watch another story video is to watch the Storytime playlist, top link in the description. Peace. So subscribe! Yeah. In today's subscriber story, this girl gets caught by her teacher doing, I'm not going to spoil it, fellas. Enjoy the story. Here's this girl in my subscribers class, and her name's Olivia, right? And I'm trying to figure out a way to describe this without it sounding like a negative thing, because teacher's pet kind of sounds negative, and try hard sounds negative. But honestly, trying hard in school is a good thing as long as you have a good balance in your life. If anything, I do promote you guys, doing well in school. But it's kind of like, she was the one that everyone knew would always spend hours to prepare for any test, even if it was a little quiz. She would know everything inside and out. And this was true for every class: math, English, history. Whatever class she was in that you had with her, you already knew that she was going to be one of the top highest scores in the class, no matter what it was. And that was kind of her reputation. She was also had a reputation for being very intense when it came to this stuff. I mean, she would study for hours and hours and hours, which is good. Hours and hours and hours for everything, I don't know, but it's good to do well in the class. And I don't want any of this to sound like I'm not encouraging you guys to do well in school. If anything, that'd be hypocritical because I try pretty hard myself, But anyways, right, she also had parents that were kind of encouraged this behavior a lot, meaning that they were very kind of strict when it came to grades. They wanted her to go to a very, very top school. But because of that, they were very, very strict when it came to grades, and they had very low tolerance for anything below almost perfection, which is, in my opinion, pretty unhealthy and, will lead to a lot of bad situations, such as the following. So this subscriber was in a math class with Olivia, and this was probably one of the harder math classes one could have taken at this point. They were only in I think they were in maybe 9th grade or 10th grade, but right, this was one of the hardest classes you could take in that year. So, he was in that class and, math was kind of his strong suit, so it made sense for him to be here. And, Olivia was trying to take all very hard classes and also do very well in all of them. But look, at a certain point, and especially in a lot of STEM classes, they get really hard. And they're really hard to just power through. Sometimes, you need to conceptually understand it or have a large background in math. And, it was a tough class. But Olivia was doing fairly well. And so is the subscriber. This was his forte, right? But there was a massive test coming up. And this whole event, this whole situation, as I'll call it, all happened during the time of this massive test. This massive test covered basically every unit that they went over, and it was like a midterm per se. And this test was worth 30% of their grade. So it was a really big test. Honestly, man, I hate it when teachers have any test or assignment be more than 15 to 20% of your grade. It just it feels like there's just so much pressure on one thing. That's why I really hated the SAT, because it was dude, there's more to me than just one test. I have a tendency to occasionally make mistakes, right? I don't want all my eggs to be in one basket. But anyways, right, so, the subscriber had prepared a lot, and on the day of the test, he was feeling pretty good. And he was there was kind of they sat wherever, there wasn't really assigned seats, but he sat down and, he was looking around, and he was there a little bit later, so there weren't as many seats open to everyone, but he saw a seat next to Olivia. And here's the thing, he wasn't best friends with Olivia, but he also didn't necessarily have any beef with her. And, this was the day of a test. You don't need to sit next to your buddies on the day of the test. If anything, it's better to sit next to randos so that you don't get distracted. So he sits down and he looks at Olivia, and she just seems a little more, I don't know, kind of stressed out than normal. She kind of just seems a little bit more on edge, because she would always come to class and be very, very confident on test day, because she knew, right, at a certain point, if you study for hours and hours for most subjects in most classes, you can kind of know that you're just going to kill it. But sometimes with really hard math classes, you can put in the hours and there's still really no guarantee, or you can't really feel that confident. And Olivia was really showing that she was not feeling super confident, and the subscriber could just sense that from the way that she was sitting there. She didn't even say anything. It was kind of funny, right? So eventually, right, the teacher walks around and hands out the test, and the subscriber immediately digs right into it. He puts his name on the test. He's flipping through the pages, just trying to figure out okay, how hard is this test going to be? And after doing about 1 or 2 problems, he was like, all right, so this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one today. And, something he does is he kind of scans the room a little bit just to see how other people they're doing, right? You kind of see how many problems they've skipped, how how stressed out they look, if they're just gliding through problems, just to kind of read the room. So he's looking around, and when he looks over at Olivia, she's in full panic mode. She isn't freaking out or crying or anything, but she had a little bit scribbled down for 1 question. She skipped 2 questions. She had her calculator out. Stuff was just a little tough. Pause. Subscribe if you haven't already. All right, back to the story. But then the subscriber notices, because he looks at her kind of a little bit more carefully, because he's wait, something's a little up here. And I don't know if you guys have ever used a graphing calculator before, but it's basically a calculator where you can do a lot more. There's you can do equations and stuff, and you can graph stuff out. Of course, graphing calculator. Sorry, right? But anyways, in a lot of graphing calculators, there's kind of a cover or kind of a sheet that you can slide it into, and you slide it out of the sheet when you're going to use it. But on the sheet, it's normally a very open space with no writing on it. And the subscriber was why is there writing on the back on the inside of the graphing calculator sheet? And he looks closely and he makes out equations. He makes out information that she wasn't supposed to have. And then all of a sudden, the subscriber realizes that Olivia, right, the one who's always try-harding, the one who's always studying a ton and has to do really well, and is always very following the rules, look, goody two-shoes is a good thing, man. Follow the rules. Life will be much easier. But she was kind of known as that, and she was cheating. The subscriber was a little bit shocked, but he kind of just went back to like doing his work, right? And he's going through and he's feeling a little bit better and he's not gliding through, but he's definitely like, okay, I've gotten the hang of this. And he looks over at Olivia and it looks like she's doing a little better too, but he looks at her and she keeps on looking and glancing at this kind of like this cheat sheet of sorts, right? She just keeps looking at it. And the subscriber's like, man, she's really never cheated before because she's doing a terrible job. Because she wasn't real. She was new to this. She was new to like bringing extra help onto a test, right? Because what she had done is she had left the back of the cover with all like the back of the calculating cover with all the answers on it. She had left it basically out in the open. She had left it flat on her desk. She didn't like kind of like sneak it with like the calculator. She wasn't being sneaky with it. She kind of like snuck it in with the graphing calculator, of course, but she was not being incognito at all. Thing was, since Olivia had never like cheated on any of the tests before, and the subscriber, right, he's not perfect. He's had his days. I do not condone cheating at all, but the subscriber had his moments, but he's been relatively like clean when it's came to that for a while. But he had occasionally in this test before, and from that he's learned a little bit. And I don't mean like learn to not cheat. I mean learned like the teacher's movement patterns and stuff and kind of like analyzed all that. Because like if the subscriber was going to cheat, he wasn't going to get caught. And so he was very careful about like with tests before analyzing movement patterns. And he knew that around the halfway point on the test, the teacher would start doing rounds where the teacher would like get out of their seat and they would start walking to the front, like from the front of the class to the back, just kind of like very softly, quietly walking around, but also intensely looking at what people were doing. The subscriber noticed this really early on, so knew that like if he was going to do anything, if he was going to bring any notes into class secretly, and remember, I don't condone this, I'm just telling the story, right? I love how I have to say that. But he knew that if he was going to bring any notes into class, that he would have to like look at them really early on. But Olivia wasn't really aware that the teacher was doing rounds because the teacher does the rounds pretty quietly and pretty like, I mean, obviously they're not like sneaking around, but they're not making a big, like, they're not stomping around. And Olivia she's so focused on her test and she's so focused from glancing up at like the back of her calculator down to the test, right? That she doesn't notice the teacher is beginning to make a round. And the subscriber's like, oh shoot, she doesn't notice. Like, oh, she isn't aware of what's about to go down. Like, and the teacher starts making like going down the first row, and Olivia and the subscriber are in the second row, or kind of in the second row ish. The subscriber's like a seat over from her, so he's technically like in the third row, but he sees like the teacher goes down the first row. And the problem is the teacher does a weaving movement. So the teacher goes straight down the first row and then comes from behind in the second row to weave down straight on the first row to come behind in the fourth row. So Olivia, who did not notice the teacher going down the first row, will not be able to see the teacher come from behind. So the subscriber's sitting there like, I'm about to watch a train crash, basically. Your word of the day is test. So if you made it this far into the video, I want you to comment test in the comment section. It just like kind of shows me who made it this far, as I really do appreciate you guys watching. And it's also kind of like, if people don't watch this far, it's like kind of like a little secret. They don't know why you guys are commenting test. Also, I try and heart as many of those as I can. Just so you know, I can't heart them all anymore. I was pretty consistent for a while, but it's been, support's been great recently, so I've been getting a lot of comments, and I would literally need to be up 24/7 on my phone to heart everything. But just know I'll do my best and heart as many as I can. That being said, back to the story. So the subscriber doesn't want to make it super obvious that he's just staring at Olivia and the teacher, but he's just watching the whole thing go down. So the teacher's going down the first row, and the teacher's eyeing everyone very carefully, and everyone else seems to be more or less kind of like in line, or they were just cheating better. I don't really know, man. But anyways, right, he gets to the end of the first row, and he's in the very back of the class, and he starts coming down the second row from the behind. And the subscriber looks at Olivia, and she is really focused on her work, right? She's really looking at it. She glances up at the back of her calculator with all the answers on it, looks down at her work, starts writing stuff, and is really dialed in. And the subscriber looks behind her, and the teacher is slowly creeping in, gaining ground, and he's just like, this is inevitable. Like, she's not going to know. he has to see it because he's like looking very closely at everyone's desk and everyone's paper, and he would need to have like a major, like there would have to be a major distraction for him not to see what's on Olivia's desk. So the teacher walks up from behind Olivia, and the subscriber notices that like his glance, like he kind of squints a little bit because he's far enough away that it's like a little hard to see, but he's close enough to Olivia to like make out stuff on her desk. And he notices, he's like, it's over, man. Like, this is it. Because he notices the teacher like focus really intensify on Olivia's desk and like, okay, what's on Olivia's desk? Her paper and the back of the calculator with all the cheating answers on it. Like, what is he gonna look at? Oh my God, my voice just like absolutely exploded and failed there. Anyways, right? He comes in and he looks at it, and then he starts like power walking towards her to kind of like catch her off guard just in case she like tries to hide something. And the subscriber's like, oh no, bro. Like, you know that like from regular show, like Muscle Man, he's like, oh no, bro. That was basically what this guy was doing because he knew like, he was like, this is about to be the craziest scene. The teacher like kind of power walks up behind Olivia, and like he doesn't even say anything. He just picks up the back of the calculator with all the answers on it that's just lying flat on her desk. And the subscriber watches Olivia's face because she is deep doing the answers. She is in a different world, focusing in on that test. And her face, man, apparently it just drops. Like her eyes just go wide. Her face, like she doesn't like obviously go like white. Like the blood doesn't literally drain out of her face, but she like practically like goes white, bro. Like she's just like, she's in shock at this point because she knows like, oh my God, like I got caught. He's just like looks at her and he's like, Olivia, what is this? And she just looks up at him and she starts like, she tries to like form a sentence, but nothing's coming out, right? And he just sees her eyes start like tearing up, and everyone in the class starts to like look behind them because it's starting to become a scene. And obviously if it's like from Olivia, they're just completely shocked about that. And the teacher's like, I can't believe this from you of all people. And then she starts like full on crying at this point. And he's like, I'm very disappointed. Those are somehow the worst. Those words are so much worse than like, I'm mad at you for some reason. And he's like, oh wow, like come with me. And she gets up and he takes, her test, and he takes, the back of the calculator where she's cheating. And they walk up, and Olivia was sitting kind of far in the back of the class, so it's just a walk of shame as she walks to the front of the class, and everyone has just stopped taking the test. They're paying 100% attention to like the drama that's going on right now, and they're all just speechless because they were just like, this is the last person we ever expected this to ever happen to. Subscribe if you haven't already, and watch another story video if you're bored. Peace. In today's story, the teacher makes the biggest mistake of their life by leaving their mic on. Enjoy. So the subscriber who sent this in, let's call him Jimmy, right? So Jimmy, good kid. He's in this English class, and this English class is happening over Zoom. I'm not 100% sure when this happened. Maybe he's still in a Zoom class. Maybe this was like over a year ago. But anyways, he's in this English class, and he's doing it over Zoom. And Jimmy's teacher, let's call him Mr. Savage, right? Let's call this guy Mr. Savage. Anyway, so Mr. Savage, English teacher man, right? He's a cool dude, I guess. I mean, the kids thought that until, what happened in the story, which I'll tell you in a second. But anyways, right? They thought he's a pretty cool dude. I mean, like, he wasn't like, he wasn't like, you guys, you seem stressed out, I'll give you less homework. But he also wasn't like, you guys seem stressed out. 3 tests tomorrow, 2 quizzes, final project due tomorrow as well, and yeah, we'll probably have a pop quiz, and all your homework is due for the rest of the year. It's due tomorrow as well. He wasn't one of those teachers, so he was fine enough. Anyways, on this day, this soon to be very notorious day, but Jimmy didn't think that going in. This would just seem like a normal English class to him. He gets in, he logs in on a Zoom, and it's going to be a good day in his mind because, a couple minutes in, when everyone joins the Zoom meeting, everyone in his class is there. Mr. Savage, he announces that, you know what? We're watching a movie today, which, everyone's ecstatic. I think it's pretty universal that whenever it's a movie being watched in class, even if the movie is boring, even if you couldn't care less, even if part of you might have wanted to actually do the actual work in class and the movie isn't the greatest option, if you hear that there's a movie, you're ecstatic. And the class has this group me group chat. I don't know if you guys use group me, but for some reason in the last like 3 years, literally every communication with a group of people, for me, I've used group me, and like why that app specifically, it doesn't even matter, right? So the class is a group me, and you see like a couple of people be let's go, baby, and just like, oh man, like this is gonna be good. And they didn't even care what they were watching. Because the thing is, especially in Zoom classes, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's pretty common that, the attention levels were not at like a 100,000%, right? And especially if he's going to put on a movie that no one was really going to care about, right? And then all of a sudden, all the Zoom, like you turned off your camera, you turned off your mic, you're watching the movie, right? Huge quotes. You're watching it, you're just going to mess around for like the 45 minutes or an hour or whatever, right? Anyway, so Mr. Savage is not the most, technically proficient teacher ever, which is fine. I mean, I'm not the most, technically proficient when it comes to Zoom anyways. Like, what? Like, I've definitely, been like, I don't know what I'm doing on here. It's fair enough, right? It is what it is. These things happen. But anyways, right, Mr. Savage, sets up another window. Somehow he, logs in on another account to screen share the movie. I don't know why he didn't just screen share it on his own account. Maybe he was planning on being busy doing something else. Wink. Not going to spoil it. I always say I'm not going to spoil it, and this is the first time I didn't actually spoil it. In the last 3 videos, I said the crucial detail. I'm not going to spoil it, guys. But this time, I just gave you a hint. I didn't spoil it. Are you proud? Are you proud of me? Anyways, right, so Mr. Savage, he sets up another window somehow. He has another account log into Zoom, and on that other account, maybe he has dual monitors. I don't know, maybe he's a big gamer guy. I don't even know, man. But he has he logs in with another account, screen shares the movie, and yeah, he starts letting it play. He turns off his camera on his main account, and he does not mute his microphone on his main account. This guy was technically proficient enough to add another person to another one of his computers to the Zoom class, screen share, but man, just he got sloppy. He got sloppy towards the end, and he just didn't mute his mic. And unfortunately, man, when it comes to Zoom, the details, it's all in the details. If you forget to mute your mic, you forget to turn off your camera, you just forget to screen share the fact that you're live streaming, cheating all the answers, right? The small little failures like that will completely, they'll get you. Right, so everyone's in class, everyone's just having a good time. The movie starts to play, no one is paying attention to the movie, as expected, right? This isn't some kind of crazy revelation or something. And they're in the group me, and everyone's like, dude, this is great, this is sick, I really wasn't feeling it anyways. The fact that we get to come in and kind of do nothing for an hour is pretty cool. And one person was like, oh, dude, I'm going to actually go leave for 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to have my phone on me, so please text the group chat if he starts asking us questions. Or for some reason, I just got to be back, man. But, I'm going to take advantage of, the blessed opportunity I've been given by this movie being played and just go and I'm just going to go mess around for a little bit. I'll see you guys around, guys. And everyone was all, in this group me was all just feeling very good, just having a very nice, cordial time. But then someone in the group me was like, LOL, Mr. Savage, he didn't mute his mic. Ahaha, let's hope nothing weird happens. That kid jinxed it. I really hope they went and beat up that kid. I'm joking. I am joking. But yeah, that kid jinxed it. It's 100% his fault, actually. If we're putting blame on anyone, don't put it on poor Mr. Savage. He doesn't know, he can't decipher the difference between a rock and a computer. It's not his fault, man. It's this kid. It's this kid for setting him up. Anyways, things are pretty normal, right? And, Jimmy, the subscriber, I really hope I named him Jimmy earlier on, because I have in my notes that I'm going to call the subscriber Jimmy. So if I didn't, his name is Jimmy now. Get over it. Get over yourself. Just deal with it is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, right, Jimmy, the subscriber, the guy who sent this in, you can send this. You can send in stories to my Instagram. It's in the description of the video. Anyways, right, things are pretty normal, but then, he does notice, right? He does notice a little rustling sound, some movement is coming from Mr. Savage, right? Mr. Savage himself, just a little rustling, a little movement is coming from, you can just hear, him moving around. Totally normal, unlucky he left his mic on, that's unlucky, right? But he just thought it'd end there, and he's like, Mr. Savage, starts if he gets on the phone or something, or I don't know, something embarrassing like that, like, or just a little embarrassing, right? Where maybe it's just the right call to like go in and tell him his mic isn't muted. But right now, like, no harm, no foul. Like, dude, it doesn't really matter, right? It is what it is. Like, I don't want to interrupt the movie because maybe if I interrupt it, maybe, I don't know, he'll start asking me questions and oh my God, I've not been paying attention. It's only been 7 minutes, but I've not been paying attention. But all of a sudden, right, instead of rustling sounds, because the microphone went mute for a while, right? And the sound of the volume of the movie was like took over again. You start hearing the subscriber, Jimmy, is just like, he doesn't really believe what he hears at first, but he starts hearing like the sounds of like anime or something. He's like, what? And yeah, no. It's like the sounds of anime coming from, you know, Mr. Savage's computer. And then everyone in the group me lights up, man. The group me just goes insane. It's like, Mr. Savage watches anime. That's so funny. Like, I could totally hang with this guy. Like all this kind of stuff. Because, you know, I mean, anime is cool. I have not gotten into it personally. I think it's cool. Like, I definitely could. If actually leave your suggestions in the comment section down below, because I might unironically watch something you suggest. Anyways, right? Everyone's like, oh, that's so funny. Like, like, that's cool. That's cool. Like, Mr. Savage, he's on the cool list now. He gets the thumbs up. He gets the plus. He gets the big, like, yes, he's the cool. Let me just say, it turns south. It goes bad. It goes bad so fast. It was so good for a second. It was so good, man. It was so good. Before I get into the downfall of Mr. Savage, basically, secret word of the day is anime. So if you made it this far into the video, comment anime down below. I'm going to try and heart as many of those as I can, but I just can't get to them all, unfortunately. I do my best, and I really do want to show my appreciation for you guys giving me that wonderful, wonderful watch time, you know. So I'll do my best, but unfortunately no guarantees. It is what it is. But yeah, comment anime down below. And while I have your attention, right, every couple videos I'll shout out a random channel member. So yeah, just to this guy on screen or gal or whoever, right? I appreciate it. Appreciate you being a channel member. If you want to join the channel, you can hit that join button. Also, I just did a whole like channel member only ask me anything type thing. I'll do those occasionally. To answer those, you have to be a channel member. I just don't use Discord. That thing's kind of toxic. So it's the closest thing I can do. Anyways, back to the story. Anyway, so at first everyone thinks it's cool. Mr. Savage, right? He watches anime. He's one of them. He's one of the cool kids or whatever. I don't know, man. And they're just all like, haha, that's so funny, right? But here's the thing. This is a very special type of anime. A very, very special type. A type that, you know, yeah, because with a lot of anime, right, you know, maybe you can, like, watch it with a younger brother or sister, or maybe you can watch your parents, maybe you can even have your grandparents join in on the action. Let me just say that, you know, this special type of anime, you probably do not want to watch it with your parents. You probably do not want to watch it with your grandparents. You probably do not want to watch it with your younger siblings, right? It's probably something that if you are going to watch it, you're going to watch it by yourself in a place where no one knows that you're watching this. Do you catch my drift? Do I need to be clearer? I'm trying to be paid for this video. I can't make it. I don't want to be demonetized, please. I can't get any clearer, guys, please. Yeah, let's just call it a very special anime. And you might be thinking like, Connor, like how would you know, right? Like how would someone know if it's this very special anime? Let me just say something, right? So while the anime, it was in, I probably like Japanese or something, right? You can't understand unless you know Japanese, right? If you don't know Japanese, you can't understand what they're saying. But let me just say that there are some sounds that are... There are some sounds that are just universal, man. You don't need to know the language to know exactly what is going on. Like, these people could be speaking in French, they could be speaking in Japanese, they could be speaking the native language of Kazakhstan for all I care. It doesn't matter. There's some noises that go beyond language. You don't even need to know any language to know what these are. You know, you catch my drift. And yeah, so that's when everything started going south. The whole group me was like, am I hearing this wrong? Like, oh my God, like no shot. And everyone's like, no, this can't be happening. This honestly can't be happening. Dude, this can't be happening to me, of all people. This can't happen. This can't be happening, man. It just can't. Everyone's like, what the fuck? What? Oh my, what? Why? What? The whole chat's like, oh my God. Do we say something? Like, because at this point, right, his mic's been unmuted for a while. and he's been watching anime. But the anime went south very fast. If you know, you know, right? And everyone's like, "Oh my, who's gonna say it?" Like, and I was like, "Dude, I'm not saying anything. I'm not gonna be that guy." And everyone's like, "Someone has to be that guy." And the problem was, right? No one wanted to be that guy saying, "Hey, Mr. Savage, right? You're watching Actually, hold up. I don't want to be demonetized. No one wanted to be like, "Hey, Mr. Savage, you're watching some very, very special anime. Very special. A very special genre, right?" No one wanted to say that, man. That's awkward. But here's the thing. It's even worse every second that goes by. It is even worse every single second that goes by, right? Because the longer they don't say anything, the longer that, you know, when Mr. Savage actually figures out that he forgot to mute his mic because he doesn't know it, he can't tell a computer and a rock apart from each other, right? He's going to realize that, you know, every second that no one said anything, they were just sitting there listening to what was going on. So every second that goes by, it gets worse. But no one wants to do it. Everyone in the chat's like, "Dude, I'm not doing it. I'm not saying anything, man. I'm not saying anything. I'm just not going to be that guy, man. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to say anything." Everyone in the chat is like, "Okay, someone has to do it, man. Someone has to brave up. Someone has to be like our true king, our true savior, and just really stand up for the common folk over here and just say to Mr. Savage, please mute your mic, dude. Oh my God." And as everyone is just kind of squawking in the group me, just like, "I don't want to do it, man, but someone's got to do it. Someone's got to man up. Someone's got to do it right." The situation gets worse. It escalates. I don't know how to say it, but let me just say that, you know, in this very, very special anime, right? The very, very, very special anime, the sounds that kind of alerted them to the fact that it was a very, very special brand of anime and not your standard family-friendly watch with your grandparents anime. Those sounds, the ones that you don't even need to know Japanese to understand what's going on, those get louder, and everyone's like, "No." Everyone's like, "Dude, it's getting worse, man. Someone has to do it. Someone has to say something. Someone has to man up." And at this point, it has been like 4 or 5 minutes since, you know, the special anime started. Actually, right, this kid in his class, let's call him Jackson, right? Jackson was just kind of like this, like, he's very nice, but he's kind of like, you know, big football kid. I don't know, was probably wearing his hat backwards, was probably like totally into trading stocks or something. I don't know, like, I'm just trying to build some random kid. I don't know why I made him a football backward hat wearing stock trader, but yeah, that's Jackson, right? Anyways, right, so Jackson, very nice kid, very good guy. But you know what? He was having enough of this. He unmuted his mic, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Savage, your mic is not muted. Please mute it." And all of a sudden, like, everyone goes quiet. The whole group means like, no one starts typing because everyone's just like, "Oh my God, he just did a Jackson. You're both our savior, but also you've exposed us to the cringe that, you know," and, you know, everyone goes silent for a second. Everyone is waiting. You know, Jimmy, the subscriber, sitting there in the Zoom call in anticipation. You know, the group me starts going off like, "Jackson, we love you, bro, but oh my God, this is so awkward." And, you know, you see Mr. Savage's mic. It mutes, right? And he sits there for a second. And then Mr. Savage leaves the Zoom call. You know, the movie's still playing because he has like another monitor or something, you know, playing it on a different computer or device or something. But Mr. Savage, he just left the Zoom call entirely, and everyone's sitting. The whole chat is like, "Whoa, like, what do we do now, dude? Like, what do we do?" Like, he left the call. Oh my God. And then someone said, "Hey, everyone, check your email." Turns out Mr. Savage sent them an email saying, "Sorry, guys, technical difficulties." He left it at technical difficulties. All right, nice try, bro. Nice try. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another story video. Peace. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a subscriber story of a girl in his class where basically she was known for her Twitch streaming and her Twitch account, and she was caught doing something in class that she wasn't supposed to, but it ended up being pretty funny, and it was embarrassing for her, but it was funny for everyone else, and it turned out to be a pretty funny story, so I was like, hey, might as well tell it on the channel. If you enjoy story videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications on. Make sure you turn on notifications or you will not see the videos in the future. Also, leave a like in the video right now and you'll receive nothing in return. That's a pretty good deal. I talked to some guys and they said, wow, nothing? That's a really good deal, so leave a like. That being said, let's jump right into the video. This subscriber is in 8th grade when this story happens. And in his 8th grade class, he has a girl who he is kind of friends with. He's had some good conversations with, and, she's overall a pretty good person. And she has a Twitch account, and that's kind of like, I don't want to say her main thing, because, like, I don't know if she does sports or, like, has other hobbies, but she's best known for, trying to, like, grind out a Twitch stream. For the sake of this video, we're just gonna call her Twitch Girl, make things easy. The layout of this class was kind of like the rows and desks. I know that some classes, like, or some classrooms have, like, round table type things, or they're at least closer together. This class was a math class, and it was just kind of like rows on rows, and it wasn't like a ton of rows. Like, this wasn't a massive class, like a seminar class or anything, because he was in 8th grade, so it wasn't like college seminar or something, but there was like 20-30 people in the class, so like there was enough to, like, it went pretty far back, but there also wasn't enough that you could easily blend, you couldn't easily, like, disappear if you're taking the class. So Twitch Girl, by the time this story happens, had been streaming on her account for about 2 months, and she would average like 10 to 15 viewers, which, if you don't know anything about Twitch, that's not too bad. Yes, it's not the numbers that top streamers get, but you need to realize that Twitch really has no organic growth out platform. There's no real way to grow organically on Twitch anymore, or at least that's what experts have said. And so really 10 to 15 viewers consistently is decently impressive. I mean, that's a that's a decent handful of people sitting down watching what you're doing. And she had been streaming a lot at this point. But the thing is, the class had just started up, and the reason why she'd been able to stream so much over the last 2 months was it was summer. So over summer break, she didn't really have anything planned. She didn't really have that many camps or anything. Her parents were kind of just like, you know what, we've been kind of setting up your summers before, but now we're going to kind of let you do what you want to do. We're going to start giving you a little bit of freedom, right? So she decided to, try and, start a career online, as she saw a lot of, successful girls become really popular on Twitch. And she said, hey, that could be really cool as a job someday. So might as well start something now, which honestly, I think that's pretty smart. And I'm all for that. Obviously, like, I've been grinding on YouTube for the last like 6 years doing different stuff. Like, I respect that. I respect the grind. I remember when I got 30 views on a video in a day, and I said, you know what? That's pretty good. And if I got 50, I celebrated. That's a tangent. We'll get back to that later. Anyway, so this girl had been streaming every day for like a couple hours, maybe even more. I'm not 100% sure. I just know it's at least a couple hours every single day, except for maybe she'd miss a day or two, but she practically streamed daily for a couple hours a day over the summer, and she'd gotten about like 1,000 followers on Twitch. I don't know how many subs or whatever, but she averaged around 10 to 15 viewers. And obviously when school came around, like, she'd get a few less, but she was still getting a good 10 to 15 viewers. The problem now is that, school, right? You don't have as much time, and when you do have free time at home, you have to do homework, and parents definitely wouldn't be as lenient allowing her to stream at home, because they'd be like, why haven't you been working more on homework, right? Because even when you get your homework done, if you do it too quickly, your parents are sometimes suspicious, unless you have like 110,000% grade in the class. Like, even if you got an A, they're like, okay, why don't you have an A plus? And if you got an A plus, they're like, okay, hear me out. Why don't you have an A plus plus? And it's sometimes a little annoying. Obviously, when you get older, you get more freedom, but since she was in 8th grade, her parents weren't a big fan of her streaming that much during school. They said, you know what, we're going to allow you to do whatever you want on the weekends, but during the weekdays, we really don't want you streaming. So all of a sudden, this girl who had been grinding all the time over the summer had to cut her days streaming down from 7 days a week, like 3 to 4 hours a day, to only 2 days a week. So the subscriber who sent in this story knew about this girl before he had class with her. He had a few good conversations with her. She was like friends of friends of friends or something, and somehow they got connected briefly. So he actually followed her over the summer, or I think it was because she had they followed each other on Instagram or something. And obviously when you start off, you want as much support as possible, because even one follow can actually really go a long way to being naturally promoted in most algorithms. So I think she posted on her Instagram, or maybe she told some close friends. Either way, he found out about her Twitch streaming channel, and, he did follow her. And while he didn't watch all of her streams, obviously, that would be a little weird. Like, if you knew someone and, they're just, someone who went to your school and you watch them 24/7, unless you genuinely enjoyed their content, then maybe that's a different thing. He would check in every once in a while, see what she was up to, say hi in chat to show some support, but, had notifications on, actually, just because he was, interested, if she was playing something or talking about something or reacting to something that he was interested in, maybe he'd tune in more often. So he turned on the notifications, but other than that, he didn't really, he didn't check in too much. He wasn't an avid fan, which is, totally fair. So he actually did think a little bit about it when, school was about to start, like, wow, she'd been streaming every day. I've been getting daily notifications. I'm pretty sure that's not going to continue, right? So anyways, he gets to his first day in this math class that he has with her. And he doesn't actually know who's in his class until he gets there. I think he could have checked like the night before, but he just waited till he got into class. And he noticed that Twitch girl was there. He says, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I know that she's kind of cool from some of my friends, and like I kind of followed her over the summer. So it's pretty cool that I now have a class with her. Right. So, they get in class together, and on your first day, so this class didn't have assigned seats. But if you don't know, in a lot of classes that don't have assigned seats, wherever you sit for the first week becomes your assigned seats. This is at least very true in college and pretty true in a lot of other places, right? And it was also true in the climate at this school, like kind of like it was the meta. The first seat you picked was kind of like, and if you stuck with it for a couple days, that was your assigned seat. So, right, he notices that the Twitch girl actually chooses all the way in the very back row. And, there's nothing wrong with sitting in the back row. I, enjoy a little bit of back row action as well. But then remember, I'm pretty active in my classes. I do give it some effort, and it is kind of notorious if you're in the back row is a little notorious because a lot of people who go in the back row do so to like engage as least as possible without making it super obvious. If I had to give a pro tip, if you don't really want to do stuff in a class and you don't want to get caught, be in the middle row. Anyways, right, so this guy has now gotten his assigned seats, and let's skip ahead for 2 weeks, because nothing really happens for 2 weeks when it comes to him and the Twitch girl, but the subscriber notices that Twitch girl went live during the weekend, but she never went live any other time, because, obviously she's in class, and he just assumed that, she couldn't do it at night. One day, however, this was about 3 to 4 weeks into math class, right? It's a normal day. The professor's going on about something that has to do with math. He doesn't really know. He's taking a seat more or less in the middle, so he can like space out a little bit. He can like mess around a little bit. So he decides to kind of glance down at his phone, see like if there's any news that's trending, or if he got a snap, or like if that girl he liked texted him back, classic stuff. But he notices a really I can't speak, bro. What I'm trying to say is that there was a notification that he received that he was not expecting, to say the least. He got a notification from Twitch. And this Twitch notification was a notification that a creator he followed with notifications on went live. And you know who that creator was? Yeah, it was Twitch Girl. And he was like, okay, Twitch is obviously bugging out, right? There's probably just like a glitch, or maybe she clicked a wrong button or something. And so he clicks into the notification to see, if what is actually going on. I'm going to interrupt the story for just 1 second. If you made it this far into the video, which I mean you did if you're watching this right now, I want you to comment Twitch down below. That's kind of like the secret phrase of the day to see who made it this far into the video. I just really appreciate it when people like watch my videos, so I want to see who's not clicking off in the first minute. And yeah, I also try and heart as many of these as possible, so if you want to farm top commenter or whatever, just comment Twitch down below. And yeah, let's get back to the story. Right, so the subscriber clicks into the Twitch notification, assuming that it was like a glitch or something, and he sees a live stream, and he's like, oh no, she must be going live by accident. And then he notices the live stream is just a screen capture of a desktop, and he's going to assume that this desktop is Twitch Girl's desktop, but he also notices that the Notepad app is open. There's about like 5 or 6 other people watching right now, and he notices that there is stuff being typed in the Notepad. And in the Notepad, it says, hey, I'm in class right now, so I can't really talk or play games, but I'm gonna go live, I'm gonna continue the grind, and I'm just gonna do it through this Notepad app, so feel free to ask me anything, right? So this guy like types in chat, and he's like, hey, haha, I'm in your class right now. And, after like a 31-minute delay or whatever, he sees in the Notepad, she types like, hey, like I'm seeing you right now, like what's going on? And he types back like, aha, just math stuff. Like if you really need help, I'll catch you up later. She's like, haha, yeah, I'm so behind anyways. I thought might as well use this for good use. He doesn't respond to that because he would disagree, but it doesn't matter. He's not trying to start a fight. Anyways, right, so this actually continues for about a week or two. She keeps going live, she keeps doing the Notepad app, and, it's not really too interesting, and the viewership has dropped like 50%. She's getting like 6 to 7 viewers instead of like 12, 13, 14, 15 like she did over the summer. Part of that is because people, are now in school, but she also probably believed that, and was probably true, that another part of this viewership drop was due to the fact that, She wasn't really, there was no face cam, there was no reaction, there was no voice, there was no gameplay. It wasn't as stimulating as the other broadcasts. She needed to add something more if she wanted to retain more of a viewership. So my subscriber just kind of assumed that she would keep this up for at least a little while. He also noticed that the viewership was a little bit down, so he kind of just assumed that she'd either give up or keep going like this just to grind for the sake of grinding. But one day, right, he's been clicking into the notifications every time he gets them, but one day he notices something interesting when he clicks into the stream. This is the first time that the notepad is not open. He notices that once again the desktop is open, but instead he sees a game being booted up. I don't remember exactly what game it was. It could have easily been Minecraft or something like that, but he notices like a game being played, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's getting more confident, like she's getting a little cocky right now. And like the game, I'm going to be honest, bro, the game was not being played well. But that wasn't because she wasn't skilled, because, you know, when she was playing over the summer, she was pretty good. The thing was that she didn't bring in a mouse because she just assumed that, like, you know, I don't know, she wasn't going to be playing games on this computer, but the computer did have a trackpad. So she was trackpad gaming. If you guys didn't know, when I got into Minecraft like 2 summers ago, like revived my interest, I was playing like competitive like Bed Wars and stuff, terribly of course. My KD was like -0.1 or whatever, but like I was playing on a trackpad, so I know the struggle. But anyway, she was playing on a trackpad, and while this was definitely more engaging and more interesting, and the trackpad just wasn't doing it. To be fair, like the trackpad was like preventing like it from making too much noise, but it also was taking away from the quality of the gameplay. So right now the subscriber's like, okay, she's getting, you know, a little bit cockier, but this isn't the same thing as before. It's probably not as engaging. The viewership went up like on average by like 1. She got like 7 to 8, but the fact was the gameplay just wasn't that good without a mouse. So the next day rolls around, and once again, he gets the notification that she went live. And honestly, at this point, he's probably like lost like a grade in he's probably down a grade in this class just because of how much he gets distracted by these live streams. But anyways, right, he just keeps going at it at this point. He gets a notification that she's live, and he hadn't checked back, like he hadn't like turned around or really looked at her when he walked into class. He kind of just got to his stuff, fumbled in, and like kind of like sat right down. When the live stream went on, he noticed something new. And this was the thing that was like really like blew his mind, right? She had face cam on, and she had a mouse, and she had a microphone. For a second, the subscriber was convinced that she like pretended to be sick and stayed home, but then he like turned his body around and saw her looking at her computer with a mouse pad and a mouse in her hand with headphones in, and the headphones had like the gamer headphones with like the voice link command thing. And he was just like, there's absolutely no shot she's doing this. She cannot think she's going to get away with this, right? So he starts watching the stream, and he starts hearing a clicking sound coming from behind him, and he's like, oh no. And he looks up at the teacher, and the teacher seems to be far enough away that like he isn't noticing the clicking sound, because while the clicks are pretty annoying to him, he guesses that like the sound isn't as apparent, or he's just distracted enough not to be like distracted by the sound. But anyways, right, she's playing the game, and someone asks something in chat. So she decides that like, oh, I guess I'm far enough behind, like back in class, that no one will hear me. She starts speaking into the microphone, and like the dude like who was watching the stream had like the volume up. The sound started coming out of his phone, so he had to turn it down really quickly. And at this point, she was like not aware of how loud she was being because she had headphones in. And at this point, he looks up at the teacher's looking right back at her. She spoke too loud. So when the teacher looks back, he kind of notices that like she has a whole gaming rig out and is like clicking away and talking into something. So he starts walking back to her, and the dude is like looking back like, dude, what? But she was too in it. Like she was like locked into her stream. She was locked into the game. And then he notices that she starts responding to another comment in her normal voice. The fact that she had her headphones in and everything, she forgot about the setting she was in. And he just looks at her. She's like looking at the screen, clicking away. And then like the teacher stands above her. And it's like a second later, she looks up and just freezes. Anyways, punishment actually turned out to be not that bad. He basically like sent her down to the principal's office. She had to explain like what she did and why she did it. And basically all that happened were her parents were notified, and the parents took away her gaming setup for about a month. That might seem a little harsh, but it's kind of justifiable. I mean, she was in class like not even paying attention. Like also distracting other people. Like, you hate to see it, and I'm all for the grind, but you got to be grinding at the right times in the right ways. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed today's video and want to support the channel, consider watching another video. Just clicking on another video of mine really does help out the channel. You can do this by any of the videos on screen or in the recommended, but also consider watching the Storytime playlist, which has all the story times in one, and that will be first link in the description. See you in the next one. Peace. Today I got a story for you guys about this couple that really pushed the boundaries in class, and when I mean really push the boundaries, I mean, well, dude, you can read the title, man. But anyways, yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So the subscriber who sent in today's story, we're just going to call him Liam. And by the way, you can send in stories and be featured on the channel to my Instagram. It's in the description, or it's just at ConnorPugs. But anyways, right, so the subscriber who sent in today's story, we're going to call this guy Liam. And I got this name selection, I chose this name because you guys left a comment. Someone left a comment saying use the name. So if you want me to use a name, go comment it down below. But anyways, right, Liam. So Liam goes to the school. I mean, he's a kid. You have to go to school. I mean, don't skip class. Go to school. Do well, guys. Yada yada. You already know. But anyways, right. You know, there was this couple in Liam's class. There was this couple, and I don't know if I want to give them a name because that sounds like a lot of name. I'm just gonna call it the girlfriend and the boyfriend. So if you hear me say the boyfriend or the girlfriend, I'm referring to the girlfriend and the boyfriend of the couple in Liam's class. But anyways, right, so Liam kind of sat towards the back of the class, and he told me that, like, you know, okay, yeah, he did try, but, you know, sometimes he did goof off in class a little bit. He wasn't, like, a top student. He wasn't, like, you know, he wasn't the top student, but he also, like, wasn't failing the class. He wasn't about to fail out of school. Like, he did care still a little bit, but, you know, he couldn't really be bothered to be, like, 100% focused all the time. So he sat in the back of the class just so, you know, you could just kind of, like, mess around a little bit and kind of get away with it a little bit more, even though, you know, he still did try a little bit. But in the back of the class, there's a whole host of people, right? Personally, I like the back of the class, even though I'm kind of a hardo in school sometimes. Like, I mean, I'm just being honest, man. Like, I do, you know, if I enjoy the subject, or even if I don't, I'll try and grind it out. I kind of see it like a video game sometimes. It's kind of fun like that. But I like the back of the class just because it's kind of like, I like the positioning. I get to see everyone. If I do want to, like, go on my computer and, I don't know, check the stock market or something, like, I won't have people looking at me like, what's this kid doing, LOL. Like, you know, I can do it, no problem. But, you know, for Liam, the back of the class was kind of where all the kids that were trying to get away with something would sit. And there's this couple, and I mentioned them briefly. I'm just going to call them the boyfriend and the girlfriend. But the boyfriend and the girlfriend, right, or the couple. If I'm going to refer to them individually, I'll say their name, like boyfriend or girlfriend, but I'm just going to call them the couple for most of this, right? So the couple, right, they were, like, they didn't really pay attention in class. They were definitely, like, I don't think that they were failing, but they were always being called to the front office. Like, it was, you know, they were just kind of like, they had other priorities than this class, which, dude, do well in class. I know it's not always fun, but trust me, like, treat it like a video game if you can enjoy it. Like, treat it as, like, getting points and doing quests. Like, you grind out stuff you don't want to do in video games because it's like you want to get the achievement. Just try and do that same thing. It's, like, the best advice I can give. And obviously, if you're interested, put your 100% in it. But anyways, right, you know, these kids were not, the couple, these two kids, they were not trying to, like, they had no intention of, you know, doing well in school. But all they wanted to do was basically to suck each other's faces off in class. Yeah, but yeah, so obviously, right, kind of unfortunate for Liam because, like, he liked the back of the classroom. He just liked the position, obviously, as I explained earlier. But the problem was, like, the couple would always sit back there as well in this one class. I don't know what class it was. Could have been, like, math, history, or something. But in this one class, the couple would always sit back there with Liam. And he was just like, bro, you cannot be serious, dude. Because they'd always be back there. And obviously, right, it was a pretty big class. There was a lot of people in there. And the way that the classroom was, like, formatted was the way back was really hard to see. Like, it wasn't impossible. Obviously, the teacher wasn't, like, blind to what was going on back there, but there's, like, just the way it was distributed, there's, like, enough kids, and, like, it was dense enough that, like, you could definitely get away with a little bit back there. Like, there's also another kid, and he's not really a main focus of the story at all, but just kind of like a side story in a sense. There's another kid who I'm not going to bother giving a name that Liam was telling me about that basically would, you know, he would hit his vape device. Guys, don't do that stuff. It's just it's so dumb. Don't do it. Like, you're gonna mess up your lungs. It's not even like that. It's not worth it, dude. Trust me. Like, that was, like, always all the rage in my high school. I never really did it. Like, that was never my thing. But, like, I have a lot of friends that are still, like, hooked on it to this day. And they're like, dude, never start this. Just don't do it. Anyways, though, right? So this couple, right? Kind of annoying to Liam because, like, at first, they would just kind of, like, hold hands, but they would do it really weird. Like, here's the thing, dude. Obviously, right, you know, I like women. They look nice, right? That's cool. I feel so weird saying that, but, like, here's the thing. PDA is gross at the end of at least for me, and I'm sure for a lot of guys and you guys or whatever, right? People are just like, you know, enjoying each other. That sounds so weird. I'm sorry. People enjoying each other, right, in public. It's just uncomfortable, man. So, like, at first, this couple, right, the boyfriend and the girlfriend, they'd be holding each other's hands, but they'd be, like, rubbing each other's hands, which is just, like, an extra layer of just, like, what the fuck? Like, what? But it was just like a little extra layer of like uncomfortable for Liam. He's just like, bro, that's weird. Put that away. But eventually, right? You know, when you can kind of like, there's definitely like people that will always ride the line. Like, if you can get away with something, you're just gonna be like, oh, can I just like do something a little bit worse, or can I be a little bit edgier, or can I ride the line just a little bit more? And this couple was definitely that couple, right? They were like, oh, we can get away with basically like fingering each other's hands. That was a very weird way of putting it, but basically rubbing each other's hands, massaging each other's hands, right? Gross, kind of weird and uncomfortable. But can we get away with like, I don't know, like giving each other like a back massage or something in class? And right, Liam, unfortunately, he likes the back of the room. He likes, you know, occasionally going on, playing some games online, maybe like looking stuff up. So he really does not want to move to the front of the room. But, you know, he is noticing that this couple is getting progressively worse and worse. So this couple really does like, just like trying the next big thing. So, you know, Liam gets there and he just notices another day. So this is like another day in class. Liam's just kind of chilling, and he notices, like, the boyfriend, like, giving the girlfriend, like, a back massage. And he's like, okay, how is this kid getting away with it, right? And he notices, and they're just kind of out of view of the teacher. They're just kind of, like, tucked away. And they're not obviously, like, grunting or doing, like, weird noises or anything, right? So they're chilling. Like, like, no one knows. And like, Liam is just like, that's weird, dude. Like, that's gross. Can you just not do that, like, here? But he doesn't say anything because the boyfriend is actually kind of scary. Like, the boyfriend, like, definitely is, like, messing with the wrong crowd, and Liam just doesn't want to, like, he just doesn't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to have to, like, have a fight with someone or anything. So he's just like, these guys suck, and I hate them, but I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to get beat up, you know? So as, like, gross and annoying as that was, you know, it was, like, yeah, Liam's like, dude, okay, whatever, like, I'm just not going to pay attention to this. But a couple days later, right, Liam's sitting in class, and he hears this, like, sucking sound. He's like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. And he looks over, and sure enough, right, this couple is just like sucking each other's faces off just in front of everyone. And like, the other kids looking around are just like, there's like a couple other kids just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, you're in class, man. But once again, they were far enough back, and they were kind of, here's the thing. They weren't, like, out of sight of the teacher. They were just getting lucky. A lot of things in life, man, are totally up to luck. And a lot of times, like, it's like, there's a saying. It's like, you know, use what you have, or like take advantage of what you have, but respect that you have it. I think I butchered it a little bit, but like, I think luck plays a huge role in like a lot of things in life. And in this situation, these kids definitely weren't like in the, you know, the front of the class where they'd be caught right away. But they were kind of getting lucky because they were just in the back. You know, the teacher was distracted doing, like, I don't know, the math or whatever on the board, not looking back there specifically. But once again, they were getting lucky. But the thing is, right, the problem is this couple, they conflated the fact that they were getting lucky with the fact that they were, like, completely in the clear. Like, those were not the same thing, right? The fact that the teacher happened to not, like, find them doesn't mean that they were, like, completely incognito and the teacher would never find them. Anyways, right, the next day rolls around, or just another day. Just either way, another day rolls around. And this is where this is where it really hits the fan, dude. This is where it gets really bad. And this is where the couple got, so cocky and so reckless from the fact that they've been getting away with so much that they decided to say, screw it. We can do literally whatever we want. And they took screw it a little bit too literally, if you know what I mean. But anyways, right, so just during this day, Liam is just chilling in class. He's looking at his computer, whatever. The teacher's teaching some math. Liam's not totally paying attention. I don't know how to say this without getting absolutely thunderbolted by YouTube. Well, let me just say that, they did a lot in that classroom. And the thing was, though, while they were, I don't know all the details, and I'm also not going to try and figure out all the details, but let me just say that, I'm going to leave it to your imagination, but they did something in class that they honestly should not have done. That's definitely not a thing you should do in class or in public or just don't do it. And let me just say that their cockiness and their kind of feeling of invincibility definitely got the worst of them, because at this point, Liam is sitting there. And look, okay, there were definitely it was there was jackets. It wasn't on a desk or something. It wasn't crazy, but it was either way, I'm not going to say exactly. So there's a couple different things it could be. But I'm not going to say exactly, but let me just say that you should not do that in class. Let me just say though, their luck ran out here. I mean, obviously they pushed the line way too far, but yeah, their luck ran out. And Liam was sitting there no shot the teacher doesn't realize, they were kind of loud. It was it was ridiculous. The fact that they got away with just a little bit. It's almost like that experiment of you put the there's I don't know, if you put the a frog in water and you slowly turn up the temperature, it won't realize it's being boiled. It's they got away with it bit by bit that they didn't realize how extreme and crazy they're being, how loud and ridiculous they are. So obviously, right, Liam looks up and the teacher is just he's on the board, X plus Y equals whatever. And then he's he turns around because obviously he's kind of here's a disturbance in the back of the classroom, quote unquote disturbance, right? And he turns around and Liam just notices his face just go from normal, whatever expression to a little bit of confusion to just absolute fury. Speaking of teachers, today's word is teacher, so comment teacher down below. I'll try and heart as many of those comments as I can, but just don't take it personally if I don't, because, I am a full-time college student while doing 2 videos a day and also trying to have a bit of a social life. So, yeah, I'll try and heart as many as I can, but don't take it personally if I don't. Also, today's your lucky day, because for every single person who leaves a like on today's video will receive nothing. I'm not even kidding, man. Also, shout out to the channel member on screen right here. Every once in a while, I'll shout out a random channel member who comments, so consider hitting that join button, but honestly, no pressure to do it. But yeah, thank you to the person on screen. I really do appreciate it, and all the other channel members. I can't speak, dude. But anyways, back to the story, where we left off. Yeah, dude, so the teacher who was just, minding his own business, doing, some problems on the board, turns around, looks all confused, and then, Liam is just sitting here oh my God, this couple, dude, these kids, bro, they have no idea what they did. They're just so blatant. And he's there's no shot this doesn't completely hit the fan. And yeah, Liam was right, dude. It completely hit the fan, because the teacher turns around and he's what are you doing in my class? And so there's a lot of articles of clothing and jackets covering these the couple, right? So it's not super blatant, but it's pretty clear, right? You kind of know what's going on. And every kid, they just turn around. Everyone looks to the back of the room to this couple. And this couple's quickly pulling up stuff and getting buttons buttoned or whatever, right? And they're just nothing, we're studying. And the teacher's you think I'm an idiot? So obviously the teacher was livid, which, if I was a teacher, I'd be extremely upset as well. And he's just principal's office now, and he points to them, and they're just getting all their stuff. They're we weren't doing anything. He said, don't lie to my face. And at this point, right, they're just we messed with it. They just can't lie at this point. There's no way to hide it. They're just being so blatant and ridiculous. And the teacher at this point is just I can't believe you're doing that in my class. I can't believe you did that in my class. This teacher's shell-shocked, dude, because understandably, man, he's just you thought you could get away with that in my class? You thought you could get away with that anywhere? I don't care if the teacher's blind and deaf, dude. And Liam was just sitting there, just well, I mean, I guess I guess I'm entertained for the day. It's like, okay, man, like this is gonna be kind of awkward when they leave, but yeah, and everyone like turns to look at them, and they make this like walk of shame, and the teacher's like, I'm coming with you. I'm not letting you get away with this, and because like the teacher wanted to make sure that like every detail was like this explained to the principal. So the teacher and the couple, they walk out of the classroom, and every other kid in the class, as they walk out, just bursts into like conversation, just like, what the fuck, like, oh my god, dude, like, what? Like what is going on, man? Like, oh my god, like that, like everyone was just like obviously very shocked, because like that's not what you expect to happen on a typical day. But anyways, right, so apparently word got out, or like a couple days later, one of Liam's friends, who was like more in on like, or at least was a little bit closer with friends of those guys, told Liam that, yeah, because Liam like asked him like, do you know anything about what happened? Because he was telling his friend about what happened in class, and his friend's like, dude, I know. And he's like, Liam's like, oh, do you know what happened to them? So yeah, both of them got expelled from the school, obviously. And there was no like kind of like there's no real trial or anything. There was no like a strike system or anything, because those kids were both kind of on a little bit of thin ice in the first place. And I honestly think even if they weren't in thin ice, that could have been an instant expulsion anyways. But yeah, so they got expelled, and Liam really never saw them again. I think he said that he saw them like once again like a movie theater like years later on, but he never saw them again at school. So yeah, moral of the story, just do your work in class, kids, or at least play a video game. Just don't do that, okay? Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go click on another video. There's some on screen or in the sidebar. Yeah, dude, go watch one, please. Today I got a story time for you guys, so yeah, sit back, relax, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, maybe some popcorn. I don't know, man. It's up to you, and let's jump right into it. So the subscriber who sent in today's video, we're going to call him Jackson. By the way, if you want to send in a story, send it to my Instagram. You can be featured on the channel. My Instagram's in the description. Anyways, right, Jackson. By the way, I got all the names for today's story from comments you guys left, so suggest a name if you'd like. Anyways, right, okay, focus. Jackson, right, so this guy, Jackson, he goes to class, and, obviously, as you can see in the title, the story takes place mostly in Jackson's English class. And, Jackson's a pretty good kid, like, he knows what he's doing. He's not, like, the top student in the class, but, he's spitting some bars, right? He knows what a noun is. He's killing it, dude. Like, he knows his ABCs. He's killing. I don't know what grade he's in, man. Maybe. But anyways, pretty middle of the line. He's doing well. And there's some other kids in his class that are a little bit more sketch, like just a little bit more sketch. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. Anyways, right, so these sketchy kids, it was one guy, one girl, right? We're gonna call the guy Tom. We're gonna call the guy the girl. I can't, dude. I'm sorry. I literally just woke up like 5 minutes ago. My mouth is like I'm stuttering all over the place. I'm sorry. Just you're gonna have to get over it. Anyways, right, Tom and Lauren. Those are the names we're choosing for the two kids that are a little bit interesting, and they're gonna be pretty integral in the story. Anyways, right, so one day, Jackson's just sitting in English class, and, he's like kind of paying attention, kind of not paying attention, but, it's English class. Look, you could either have a really engaging teacher or a very, very boring, like, here's all the, obscure rules of grammar type teacher. However, do listen to that teacher, because my grammar is pretty bad. Like, I don't know the words for all the different stuff, and it's kind of bit me in the butt, like, later on, so pay attention. Just pay attention in school, guys. This is general, just a little word of advice. Anyways, right, so Jackson, he's kind of just chilling. I don't know if he's paying, like, that close of attention, because he does notice something, which I'm about to tell you, and is pretty integral to the story. Anyways, right, so Jackson is sitting, back in the middle row. There isn't, like, a ton of rows, right? This class, like, a couple stories ago, I think I told you about, like, or maybe it's yesterday's story, I told you about, like, a class and how it went really far back, and kids were able to get away with a lot. This class was not the same deal. Like, this class was kind of small in a sense. It wasn't necessarily like a round table or anything. It was not a round table at all, but it was a much smaller class. Kids definitely would not be able to get away with as much as, they were in the last story time. But in this one, like, the class was kind of shallow compared to that one. And, Tom and Lauren, the two kind of sketchy kids, they were sitting like way back. But even though Jackson was sitting kind of like back in the middle row, he could still pretty much see what they were doing if he like barely turned his head. Anyways, right, so Jackson, he's just kind of like spacing down a little bit, and he turns behind him and he sees Tom and Lauren. That's the kind of like the sketchy couple I was talking about earlier. They were kind of just sitting. Oh, yeah, they were also a couple, by the way. Just, I mean, kind of not super necessary details, but still, it gives a little bit more insight to the story, I guess. I don't know, dude. But, anyways, right, so, Jackson turns around and he sees them, and they're passing back and forth like this water bottle, and it's not a clear water bottle. It's like one of those metal ones, and they're taking like really like small sips. And Jackson's like, why are they sipping on this water, dude? Like, why are they sipping on water? And it starts to like click in his head that, the fact that like, Lauren was like grimacing every time she took a sip of water, that, he started to like put two and two together and realize that they were not passing back and forth a bottle of water in this classroom. They were passing back and forth a bottle of apple juice. Nah, yeah, you guys can figure it out. It's easier if I don't say more than I need to for like YouTube not thunderbolting my videos and such, but you know what I mean. So Jackson's kind of looking back at these guys just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, kind of just looking back like, bro, like, like what's going on? He obviously doesn't say like, hey guys, what are you drinking? It doesn't look like water. He's not an idiot, bro. He's not trying to get absolutely obliterated after class, right? He understands a thing or two about how to survive. He also understands that, like, if it doesn't affect him, like, negatively, why interfere? Which, in a lot of cases, I gotta agree with that. But anyways, right, so when Tom and Lauren are passing back the water bottle, and I'm just going to call it the water bottle, it's just better for the channel if I'd say that. When Tom and Lauren are passing back and forth the water bottle, right, Tom, like, Jackson kind of like looks a little bit too closely at what's going on. He's turning a little bit too much, and he makes direct eye contact with Tom, and then, he quickly turns around. He should have, like, pretended to look, in retrospect, he should have pretended to, like, look the other way. He should have pretended to, I don't know, like, should have just, like, pretended that, like, Tom, he was not looking at what Tom and Lauren were doing, because, right, class ends, Tom is, like, or not Tom, Jackson's walking down the hall, and then he feels like a hand on his shoulder, and Tom and he looks around, and guess who it is? It's Tom. And also Lauren is like kind of behind him, but Tom's kind of taking charge of the conversation or whatever. And Tom's like, hey man, and Jackson's like, hey. And remember at this point, Tom and Jackson, like, they're not boys, right? They're not friends, like, they're not enemies. Tom or Jackson have never wronged each other, but they've never really spoken. They might have spoken like once in like, I don't know, a class group or something, but these two guys have never really spoken to each other. So at this point, right, Jackson's kind of just like, dude, like, hello, like, hi, like, okay, what's going on? And Tom's like, hey man, I saw you like looking at us like earlier. And, Jackson's like, yeah, maybe, like, I don't really remember, like, I kind of space out a lot in class. And Tom's just, like, looking at him like, hey, bro, like, I really can't have you telling anyone. And Jackson's like, dude, like, why would I, like, there's no benefit for, like, first of all, I have no idea what you're drinking in those, like, water bottles, right? So, like, I have no idea, really. And then he says, second of all, even if I was to, like, know, right? Even if I was to, like, have a good guess, what would be the value, right? What would come that would be good for me if I said anything to anyone? And he said, I can tell you what the downside would be. You guys would probably beat me up because, like, he's Jackson's just being straight up at this point because he knew that Tom was like kind of sketchy, kind of a big guy, had a lot of friends. Like, he's just like, Jackson's just like, dude, like, there's no reason for me to say anything. And Tom kind of like actually takes this pretty well. He's like, huh, okay. Fair enough. And then Jackson does say something, and like, because like, look, Lauren was there too, and kind of like looked at Tom and Lauren. He's like, guys, like, it is a pretty small English class. Like, honestly, like, do what you want to do. And I'm definitely not going to say anything. That's just not my place. But at the same time, like, if I was sitting pretty far away from you guys, and if I got kind of a sense of what was going on, I would just be careful. And Tom's like, you don't need to worry about us, but thanks, I guess. And, Jackson's like, all right, man, like, I guess I'll see you in class tomorrow. So anyways, right, the next day rolls around, and they're in class, and Jackson is kind of like, he's like a little farther up than normal, because he just has a feeling, right? He knows that Tom and Lauren, they're not going to care. They're going to keep doing what they're doing, and in his opinion, they're going to get caught sooner rather than later, so he just wants no affiliation at all. So sure enough, right,
there's like a clock in the back of the room, so you can kind of like, Jackson was looking back and kind of got kind of kept his cover because there was like a clock back there. So he looks back at the clock, and yeah, sure enough, Tom and Lauren, they're back there doing exactly what they were doing yesterday, passing the water bottle, grimacing at small sips of quote unquote water. So you had a sense that it wasn't water, dude, right? And Jackson's like, okay, man, like if you want to get caught, dude, like that's up to you. That's up to you. That's not gonna be on me. That's gonna be on you. But like you can live your life, man. But anyways, as Jackson expected, right? It was a small classroom. It wasn't some big crazy classroom like the last story, right? It was a pretty small classroom, and guess what? The teacher saw them and was like kind of looking at them and kind of look because like the teacher didn't get them on the first try because like, dude, it's just water, and like you can pass water to a friend, right? Maybe they're thirsty, maybe they don't want to get up, maybe that's fine. But he was looking at them, and they were passing back and forth a water bottle with taking very small sips of it and grimacing. And at this point, he was like, after a certain second, he turns back, he's like, hey, Tom, Lauren, because at this point, right, Lauren, it really was kind of Lauren, it wasn't Lauren's fault, that's a lie, but it was on Lauren that, was when he made the call, because, Lauren had the water bottle, and, after taking a small sip, really made this big, grimace face. It was like, blah, right, and, at this point, he was like, hey, Lauren, what are you drinking there, that doesn't seem like water. You and Tom have been passing it back and forth and grimacing. He really just did say this in front of the whole class. And everyone at this point just turns around. And they're like, no, sir, it's water. And he's like, really? Can I take a whiff? And they're like, sure, it's just water, though. Because they're really trying to because sometimes, if you really stick to your lie, someone will be just so thrown off by your confidence that they won't even fact check it. No, this teacher was pretty certain in himself. So he said, okay, I'll come over then. And at this point, Jackson's in his head, he's just like, dude, I told you. Speaking of quote unquote water, today's secret word is water. So if you made it this far into the video, which if you're listening to this, you have, comment water down below. I've been worse about hearting comments, but trust me, at random times, I'll go back and try and heart a bunch of comments. So don't take it personally if I don't heart your comment, but the best way to get a heart and try and get top commenter on the channel is to comment the secret word, which is today, it is water. And with that being said, it is also your lucky day. It's your lucky day, dude, because for every single person who leaves a like on today's video, we'll receive absolutely nothing. Enjoy. Anyways, right, so the teacher walks up, and at this point, right, Lauren's kind of sweating. Thomas has this facade of it's cool, bro, it's cool. But Jackson knew for a fact that Tom knew that he was screwed at this point. And yeah, so anyways, the teacher goes up, grabs the water bottle, takes one smell of it, scrunches his nose, is like, oh. He's looks at them, he's like, all right, this is no water. Come on, guys. You should know better. And they just look at him. They're just they just don't say anything. They don't even try to fight it because, if it smells like that, dude, it's just not water. You just can't, say, oh, it's flavored water. Yeah, what is it flavored? I don't know, drain cleaner flavored? Why would it smell like that? But anyways, right, yeah, so, he's just you two, office, come with me. And yeah, so it's kind of a walk of shame up to the principal's office. And yeah, so anyways, Jackson obviously doesn't go to the principal's office with them, but he kind of hears through the grapevine, he hears through some friends that Lauren is suspended for 2 weeks, and Tom has a lot more on his record, had a lot more had a much sketchier record, had a lot more strikes against him. And for this final strike, he was gone. He got officially expelled from the school. They just couldn't handle him anymore. So, Jackson was walking out of class, and he didn't know this at this point. He was told this after the fact. So he's walking out of class, I don't know, 30 minutes later, and he's just it's kind of a free period. So he's just going to his locker room or his locker or whatever. And Tom comes up to him. He's like, dude, what the fuck? He's just why? Why would you do that? And Jackson just looks at him with this confused, dazed face. What are you talking about? He's like, bro, I got expelled. And Jackson's like, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you. And then and the kid and Tom is like, bro, why would you say something? And Jackson's looking at him like, dude, what are you talking about? Tom's like, I know you said something. And Jackson's like, bro, what did I say? When did I say it? And he's like, I don't know, but we were doing it so nonchalantly, there's no way that the teacher didn't know about it until you said something. And Jackson's like, hey man, I'm really sorry you got expelled. But with all due respect, You guys were not nonchalant. That was a small classroom. Like, if I wasn't even, like, the first time, I was in a completely different row. If I noticed you guys, like, all the way up there, then, like, I definitely didn't, like, like, it's super obvious. If I was able to figure it out, I wasn't even facing towards you guys the whole time. I'm surprised the teacher didn't notice it earlier, because he's facing towards you guys the entire time. And that's what Tom's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why did he only know after you found out? And Jackson's like, bro, why would I tell him? What would be the benefit? At this point, right, you know, Tom is just like he's just not like listening to Jackson. He starts getting really frustrated. He's just like, you know what? No, you definitely told them. He's like, you and me tonight, outside, after school. And at this point, right, unfortunately for Tom, but very fortunately for Jackson, right, just a teacher was walking by and happened to listen to this, and she's like, Tom, Jackson, come with me. And at this point, right, you know, Jackson's like, oh my God. The teacher escorts Tom and Jackson to the principal's office and, you know, tells the principal exactly what he heard. At this point, right, the teacher doesn't know that Tom is, like, legitimately expelled and is getting his stuff, right? And, you know, the principal's just like, Tom, like, did you just threaten to beat up this kid? And Tom's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Like, you don't have any authority anymore. And the principal, you know, he says, Tom, you know, wait in that room for a second. And, you know, Tom does it because he doesn't really think about anything that's coming. And Tom's waiting there for like 20 minutes. Jackson's sitting in the principal's room. And, yeah, police officers come and escort him out of the school. And Jackson's just watching as, like, these two police officers escort Jackson. Jackson's watching them escort Jackson. Yeah, Connor, you're a genius. No, Jackson's watching as, you know, Tom is, like, legitimately escorted out of the school by two police officers. And, yeah, you know, that was to say the very least, eventful day for Tom and Jackson. And Lauren, because she had 2 weeks of suspension, and the teacher and everyone in the class, because, like, they saw the whole thing going down. Yeah, moral of the story, if you're drinking stuff in class, keep it to water. Stay hydrated. Dude, my brain cells are in the last function right now. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to cut the video. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some on the sidebar. Click it or I'll
Today
cry.
I got another Zoom fail story for you guys, so yeah, sit back, relax. Hopefully you're not watching this while muted in a Zoom class, because this story might make you a little anxious that you're not actually muted and no one's just telling you that you're watching a video about a Zoom fail while in a class. But hopefully that's not the case. But anyways, yeah, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. So the subscriber sent in the story. We're going to call her Sophia. And we're going to call Sophia's ex-best friend, which we'll get into in a second. We're going to call her Katie. By the way, I got both the names Sophia and Katie from suggestions in the comment section, so leave name suggestions down below. I actually do use them because I'm not creative anymore, because I'll just use, like, Ben every single time. But anyways, right, so Sophia, Katie, and some other friends, right? They're not super relevant, but they're just other friends in the mix. You know, Sophia and her friends were friends with Katie in 6th grade, and they were pretty close. But, you know, after about a year of being friends, like, I didn't get really specific details, but basically, Katie was acting a little weird. And not weird in the sense that, like, oh, haha, quirky, whatever, like something stupid like that. Weird in, like, a way that it made, you know, Sophia and her friends pretty uncomfortable. I honestly don't know what that means. There's a lot of things that could be. Look, whatever it was, justified that, you know, Sophia and her friends were like, you know what, we don't think Katie is a great match for us anymore. Which, honestly, it kind of makes a lot of sense after, you know, the rest of the story, which I obviously know and you're about to hear. So I don't completely blame them. I will say I've never understood how you, like, drop a friend. I've definitely, like, had people that I was friends with in the past and I'm no longer friends with, and sometimes that had been pretty intentional. But, you know, I just always feel that you just don't make an effort and then hope that they find other people. Like, I feel like, I don't know, that's the way I'd go about it. I don't know if I'm like some cruel, heartless being or something. But anyways, right, so Sophia and her friends, they basically just tell Katie, and I look, that might be a little harsh. I really don't know. Remember, this was in 6th grade, and, like, it's not the style I go about, like, splitting up friendships, but it is what it is. But anyways, right, they basically just say that, you know, they got to find different people to hang out with. I'm assuming that, you know, whatever Katie did justified this. But anyways, right, Katie was, you know, not very happy with them, and she just said, okay, and then proceeded to block all of them, which, you know, it wasn't the most mature thing ever, but at the end of the day, this did occur in 6th grade, so Hey, dude, like, I remember in 7th grade, this is like a mini story that I might make a full story someday. If this video gets 6,000 likes, I'll tell this story because it's pretty bad. It's pretty cringe, bro. But in 7th grade, there's this girl I really liked, and her ex-boyfriend came to this dance and danced with her, and I was like so sad that I blocked her on Snapchat and then unblocked her the next day, and she texted me, "Hey, did you block me?" And I was like, "No." And it was, oh god, that story somehow was much worse, and I only gave you a sneak preview. But look, we were all cringe and overreacted back in the day. Anyways, though, many years go by after this point, right? So Sophia and her friends and Katie, this is many years in the future. I mean, it's not like 10 or anything. There might be in high school or maybe 8th grade or, 9th grade, 10th grade, something like that. Anyways, they all attend the same school. And this is the year of Zoom classes. So, that was probably like a year ago, 2 years ago. Oh my God, it's been like 2 years. That's actually really uncomfortable. God damn, that's crazy. Anyways, right, so, in this class, Katie had been... Katie, she was having, a lot of, she was not doing well, basically. She was not doing well in school. She was definitely, her grades were, pretty terrible, which doesn't mean that, you're a bad person or anything. And sometimes it even doesn't mean that you're not trying, but she was definitely not trying because she was too busy trying to get attention is what I garnered, basically. So, Sophia, and her friends would be sitting in class, and then, they were just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, Katie would be pretend, would just say something, someone would for example, here's an example, they were in class and the teacher said, "Hey, can anyone can someone solve this math equation or whatever?" And someone would, they'd unmute their mic and they'd be like, "Hey, yeah, I can give that a try. Is the answer whatever, right?" And the teacher would say, "No, try again." Obviously, right, Katie didn't understand what the actual answer was. She had no idea what was going on. But when she heard the teacher say that, the answer was wrong, she would unmute her mic to, laugh a little bit and then quickly mute her mic. It was obviously very intentional just to, get attention, even if, she definitely took the whole concept of, all press is good press or all publicity or attention is good publicity and attention. She took it to the extremes for this one. Because, the class really didn't like her because she would do stuff like that. But anyways, right, one day, Katie was in class, and, she gets bad grades because she doesn't try and focuses too hard on, trying to, get attention and, doing a lot of stuff like that. And she's in a breakout group with a bunch of people. And, Sophia isn't in this breakout group, but she has, a friend that was in this breakout group that told her about what happened later, because, she knew that Sophia and Katie used to be friends way, way back in the day. And so basically, right, this friend of Sophia was in a breakout room with Katie, and Katie was talking about, "Oh, why do I get such bad..." She legitimately said, quote unquote, "Why do I get such bad grades?" And everyone was just kind of silent because it was she doesn't pay attention. She's obviously on her phone the whole time, which, look, if I'm being honest, dude, Zoom is hard. Don't get me wrong. Zoom is hard to pay attention on. But if you're not even trying and if you have bad grades and you're not trying, that's fine. Do what you want to do. But you have to at least know that that's why you're getting them. You can't be why is this happening? It's dude, that's on you. Basically, right, the breakout room was silent, but, Katie wouldn't stop kind of her, her tirade, her rampage about oh my God, I don't get it. I don't get why I'm getting bad grades in this class. It doesn't make any sense, guys. And she kept on going about how it makes no sense, how she thinks she's being cheated out of a good grade, how it's she's definitely smart enough so the grades don't reflect her inherent intelligence or something weird like that, until someone spoke up. This wasn't the friend of Sophia who spoke up, but someone spoke up basically saying, I don't know what your work, work you're doing or how you've done in quizzes, but it's pretty apparent that you're kind of not paying attention in class. And, Katie kind of just looked at them and said, "That's not true. I pay really close attention. I'm actually one of the best in class," which was just completely not the case. Yeah, you could say that, that's a little subjective, if they're good in class, if they're doing a good job. You could say that that's subjective, but this was not subjective, to put it lightly. No, she was very, very blatantly going on her phone, not paying any attention. And when she did pay attention, it was to have mini outbursts, laughing at people or pretending that she didn't know her audio was off or something. So the next day or a couple days later, at a later point, right, they're in a Zoom class and, Katie's there, Sophia's there. And basically what happens is Katie had been she'd been laughing at people, but she tried to make it look like a mistake, whereas very obviously not a mistake. But at this point, right, Katie started to like push the line a little bit. So basically, right, this was like, I don't know, a history class or something, or some kind of class. It doesn't even matter, right? They're in class, and once again, someone answers a question and they're not exactly right. It wasn't like obvious. It wasn't like someone like failed to do basic like arithmetic or something, or wasn't able to say, who, the president of the United States currently is, you know what I mean? But at the same time, right, they got a question wrong, and the teacher basically acknowledged politely that that answer wasn't exactly correct. And Katie unmutes her mic and says, "Effing idiot." I'm trying to keep this swearing to a minimum because I like getting paid. I like money. Unlucky, it is what it is. But she just said that fully and then remuted. And, the teacher was pissed. She's like, Katie, can't say that in class. Like, that's so disrespectful to your students. Like, also, like, refrain from using that language, especially in like a derogatory way to your fellow classmates. And she's like, she actually says, "Katie, I'd like you to leave the class." Because it's pretty hard to send someone to the principal's office over Zoom. There was no like Zoom principal's office. But yeah, Katie was asked to leave the class. She exited the Zoom meeting, and like there was an email sent to the principal or whatever. And probably Katie got something. I don't know exactly what she got. I got no inside scoop on that. But anyways, right. Katie, wasn't really deterred by that, which is kind of interesting. But let me just say that, this is kind of like alluding to what's about to happen. But the teacher was getting really, really fed up. Like, this teacher was not having it, dude. Like, this teacher, Katie had been doing like these outbursts. Katie had not been trying in his class. Katie had been, making fun of other kids. Katie had just had a terrible attitude the whole time and had been honestly disruptive, not trying, making fun of other people. Like, basically every strike you could have like ticked against you, Katie had that. So this point, right after this final outburst, or this second to final outburst, right, the Katie's teacher, or the teacher of this class, was just done. This guy was done. So anyways, right, on the eventful day, the fateful day that made this like a very interesting story, right? Katie comes into class, and, Sophia's there, other people are there, and they're all just kind of chilling, right? It's a pretty normal day. And as a normal day, Katie is about to go on one of her pretend "I forgot to mute the mic" type things, like, "Oh my God, I accidentally forgot to mute the mic." And what Katie does this time is she's been like pushing the envelope. She's been trying to go a little bit farther, pushing it a little bit more every single time. And this time, the teacher's already like he's done with Katie at this point. Very, very thin ice. And Katie kind of pushes it as far as she's done before. So once again, she forgets to mute her mic. She accidentally unmutes her mic for one of these attention stunts. And what she pretends to do, she pretends to not know that, she's unmuted, and she gets on the phone with a friend or whatever, but obviously she has it up to her ears. So honestly, odds are no one was on the other side. But what she starts doing is she starts just like bad-mouthing first the teacher, and then second starts going through random students in the class, like basically calling them like an idiot or stupid or like annoying or ugly, just like going through the whole thing. And this is like the farthest she's ever gone, because like she's name dropping people and like pretending that her mic isn't muted. Dude, it's just an attention. She 100%, because she did this every day basically, but never this bad. And she was already on extremely thin ice at this point. So the teacher, he's done. And this teacher is about to absolutely unload on Katie so bad that she may or may not transfer. I don't want to spoil it too much. Real quick, speaking of Zoom, today's word is Zoom. So if you made it this far, comment Zoom down below. I'll try and heart a few of those comments. I can't guarantee to heart them all because like I'm also a college student or whatever. So just comment Zoom if you made it this far. And also, today is your lucky day, because every single person who leaves a like on today's video will receive absolutely nothing in return. Fantastic deal, I know. And also, while you're down there leaving a like, make sure there's notifications are turned on, because I'll love you forever if you have them on. Anyways, yeah, let's get back to the story. Anyways, right, at this point, the teacher has absolutely had it with Katie. She was on super thin ice, and also she started calling out people in the class. Sophia was one of the people on her hit list that she went through, probably because of like what happened like many years ago. But, the teacher, instead of like kind of ignoring it, because in the past, like it had been kind of small, or like he just like didn't want to deal with it, he actually confronted Katie head on. He's like, "Katie, your mic is not muted." He knew that like she knew it, But like she was like, oh my God, I didn't know, guys. Kind of like looking for the same, like, oh, I'm going to get some attention. I'm going to get a little bit of hate, a little bit of heat from the class. That's going to get me going, kind of like whatever she was doing throughout the whole thing. However, this time was very different. The teacher says, Katie, you are rude. You are and starts like laying into her. You are rude. You are disrespectful. And do you want to, I've heard you in the breakout rooms. I've been in those breakout rooms when you say, oh, why are my grades so bad? You want to know why your grades are so bad? And by the way, class, Katie's currently failing this course and goes on to because he's already screen sharing at this point, goes on to share the screen and show Katie's grades in this like kind of Excel document. At this point, right, Katie's completely flabbergasted. This teacher probably went a little bit too far. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you guys. Probably went a little bit too far, but definitely worth it. He goes in, he opens it, he's like, you know what, Katie, this is why these are your grades. You got a 0 on this, you never turned it in after I said for you to turn it in. You got a 50 on this because you didn't try. You got a 40 on this because you didn't try. You got a 30 on this because you turned it in a month late after I gave you a week extension. And he went through the list. And he's like, you know what? That's the last time I'm going to allow you to do that to any of the students. You are now forbidden from ever unmuting your mic. And at this point, right, he was still kind of ripping into Katie. But, he noticed, and everyone else noticed, including Sophia, noticed that Katie just left the Zoom call. She just dipped. She was not expected to get ripped on so hard and completely, like, eviscerated in front of the entire class, dude. Like, she got completely exposed in front of everyone, and it was just too much at this point. So, anyways, right, allegedly, right, what Katie posted, because, like, later that day, she posted on her Instagram that she was dropping out of high school to pursue her musical passion. And everyone was like, dude, that's such a lie. Like, first of all, Katie had like 6 followers on SoundCloud and she had like 1 beat on there. It was something she did like 2 years ago for like, I don't know, like she was not doing that. And, it turns out that, Sophia actually looked into it. And, because Katie didn't come back the next day, Katie didn't come back the day after that. And in fact, Katie never came back to that class. And on her Instagram, she was talking about how she dropped out and is pursuing her musical career. But Katie did a little bit of investigations. And it turned out that, after a couple weeks, she literally just transferred to the nearest like school. It was all online at that point, so it didn't really matter the distance. But she just transferred. Yeah, imagine getting obliterated so tough in your Zoom class that you can literally never go back. Unlucky. Don't forget, you can always submit your stories and be featured on the channel, Instagram down below. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. And now go watch another video. There's some on screen or on the sidebar. Click it or I'll cry out.
Story time of a girl getting caught doing something in class that, she probably shouldn't have been doing because, as you saw in the title, she got expelled for it. And anyway, sit back, relax, and let's just jump right into the story. Anyways, right, so we're going to call the subscriber who sent in this story, and you can send in stories to my Instagram. It's in the description. We're going to call him Paul, and I got the name Paul from the comment section. So if you want your name, your friend's name, or just a random name to be featured in the story, don't forget to leave a comment with the name in it. Anyways, right, so Paul, he was in history class, and this just seemed like a normal day in history class. He was just sitting there, he was chilling, having a pretty good time. And there was this girl in Paul's history class, and we're going to call her Janet, also a name I got from the comment section. Anyways, right, so Janet was, she was kind of known as not like a bad girl, because that sounds kind of cringe and weird, but she was known as being kind of like someone who's kind of rode the line of the rules and had gotten in trouble a lot before. So kind of to Paul's knowledge, Janet was kind of on like her last strike or whatever, or she was very close to just being like kicked from the school entirely, right? So anyways, Paul's just sitting there in history class, and he happens to sit down in a seat that is like middle to back, so like farther towards the back, but not the very far back of the classroom. And Janet, who is in like 5 minutes late, and when, Janet went through the door, history teacher who already kind of like started the lesson kind of looks at her like, come on, dude. He doesn't give her that hard of a time just because, like, this is kind of common. He knows that she's on, like, really thin ice, and she also knows that she's on really thin ice. And obviously, being that late every single day is going to have an impact on your grade. At least in his class, it's part of the participation, which was a pretty big part of the grade. So he didn't really chew her out since he kind of knew that she was going to be punished either way. Like, she was going to receive punishment in the form of a bad grade, or at least a bad participation grade. And the rest of her grade wasn't looking that good either. She was just she wasn't doing that hot in school as well. But anyways, Moving on, she gets into class and there's like a seat, and the only seat really left is next to Paul. And Paul and Janet weren't necessarily best friends, to say the least. They weren't enemies, but they definitely were just barely acquaintances. So since Janet got in late and the only seat was next to Paul, she like quickly hurried in and sat, next to Paul. And the lesson continued on, the class continued on, life continued on. And Paul was just kind of just paying attention to, the class, because Paul was a pretty decent student. He didn't really mess around with any rule breaking or anything. He was just trying to go to semi-decent college, trying to get that CS major, I don't know, be a software engineer or something. He was, he had a plan. He was trying to stick towards it. He kind of just went in every day, did his work, and left. But yeah, he didn't really know much of Janet besides that she was not on that path exactly. But Paul was sitting there just in class and the teacher was going on about something. And to be fair, Paul was not really paying super close attention at this time because he knew in this history class that, he could kind of just read the textbook and get like all the information he needed in probably in like 10 minutes instead of like listening to this guy ramble on for 45 minutes. So he kind of like hacked the class at that point. So he didn't really feel the need to, pay super close attention, but he also like needed to, attend class every day. But anyways, right, he was kind of spacing out when he noticed Jasmine was, Janet, sorry. Jasmine was, I think, the last person's name. I have the names of the people I do the stories written down so I don't forget, and I mix it up. Anyways, right, Paul noticed that Janet was looking very intensely at him, and he was, like, kind of creeped out because he kind of saw that from the corner of his eye, and he thought it was, like, she was staring off into space, like, next to him, but she was, like, kind of making little hand movements towards him, so eventually, right, Paul, like, looks directly at Janet and is kind of like, what? Like, hello? Hi? Like, I don't know who you are, bro. Like, and Janet just looks at Paul and has this, like, smile on her face. Because apparently, right, she got bored pretty easily. And she decided that today she was going to make a new friend and show something off. So she looks at him and she just puts her finger up to her lips. Kind of like, the shushing motion and goes, shh. And Paul is just, like, looking at her like, dude, what? You're trying to get my attention. Why are you telling me to shush? And she reaches into her backpack. At this point, Paul is just like, okay, let's hope that's just a pencil or maybe a pad of paper. Maybe she's really buckling down. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she's like actually going to start paying attention in class. She's going to even pay more attention than me. She's going to turn her whole life around at this point. No, she takes out a water bottle. And let me just say that this was pretty clearly not a normal water bottle. And she's looking Paul right in the eyes when she takes out this water bottle. So Paul already knows that like something is like up. This is not like a water bottle. She wouldn't like shush him if it was just like, well, okay, the water bottle was actually normal. The water bottle itself, correction. But obviously whatever was in the water bottle was not like normal enough for her to be like, shh, don't tell anyone I'm drinking water. Like no one cares, bro. Like no one will care. Obviously, right, Paul was putting two and two together and realized that there was certain liquids in there, certain apple juices made for adults, right, that probably was something that Janet didn't want everyone to know about, even though she probably wanted some people to know about because she was telling Paul basically because, attention, bro. Everyone likes a little bit of attention, but obviously in this case, too much attention, and she gets a strike against her, which is probably her like 100th strike, and she'll probably get kicked out or expelled or something. So she's being a little sneaky, but still wants that good old sweet attention. And anyways, right, she looks at Paul, and she like puts the water bottle up to her lips, takes a bit of a sip, kind of grimaces a little bit, and puts it back, and Paul's like, kind of like leans over and is just like, yo, you probably shouldn't do that in class. Like, you should probably put that away. And she kind of looks back at him and she responds kind of flirtily like, oh, I can do whatever I want. And she like picks up the water bottle again, kind of like takes a bigger sip of it. At this point, right, Paul actually hears like the teacher from the front of the room say, quiet down, you two, and like kind of looks at them too. And then Paul's a little annoyed at this point because he's like, dude, I'm just trying to pay attention. I'm trying to stay out of trouble. Like, Janet, this happens to you every day, but I'm just not trying to get into trouble, bro. This is not something I'm trying to do. And, Janice is kind of like looking at him like, they both look forward after they're told to pay attention. But then all of a sudden, right, Janet just starts like she's, back, drinking from that water bottle full of, yes, totally water. There's totally water in there, dude. YouTube algorithm gods. There is water in that bottle. Anyways, right, so Paul is paying attention again, and then Janet just goes back to like, kind of like trying to like look at him and get his attention and get him to like pay attention to her again. And she's like taking like, sips of this apple juice from the water bottle. And obviously this apple juice, doesn't taste that good. No one really enjoys the flavor of it. If you do, you're a little crazy, a little psychotic. But anyways, so she grimaces basically every time she takes a small sip of that. And since the teacher already caught, both of them in huge quotation marks, obviously Paul got roped into this. But since the teacher already caught them talking, like he was already kind of like paying a little bit more attention to whatever was going on back there. And he noticed that, Janet, she was drinking from this, non-disclosed water bottle, and that she was grimacing every time she took a sip. And let me just say that normally when you drink water, you normally drink it in a big swoosh, big glug, and you also don't grimace while doing it. I don't know, man, maybe water is hard for you guys to get down, but for the average human being, that's not the reaction you have when you drink water. So all of a sudden the teacher was getting a little bit suspicious. And the thing is, like, Paul is noticing this because he's, like, looking up and he's looking at the teacher, looking back at both of them. And he goes to Janet. He's like, Janet, the teacher's paying attention. You got to, like, chill out for a second. And Janet's not paying any attention to him. And, in retrospect, she definitely should have, because within, like, 30 seconds, the teacher goes, hey, Janet, Paul, I'm going to come over there for a second. And they're just, like, confused. And, like, the teacher starts walking towards them. And this was, remember, in the middle of class. And Paul's like, no, I'm not roped into this, dude. Like, I'm not roped into this. And, the teacher goes up to Janet and is like, what's in that water bottle? And she's like, water? And he's like, all right, let me see. And she says, no. And he's like, why would you not let me see? And she said, it's just water. Why would you want to see? And he's like, if it's this water, why wouldn't you let me see? And, begrudgingly, Janet, gives him the water bottle. The teacher just puts it up to his nose, takes a sniff, kind of like closes his eyes, like, shudders a bit. And he's like, all right, Paul, Janet, principal's office. And Paul's like, dude, I was just sitting here. And he's like, it's not what it looked like. It looked like you and Janet were talking a lot, maybe even passing back and forth this water. And at this point, Paul is mad. Speaking of water, today's secret word of the day is water, so comment water down below if you made it this far. I'll try and heart some comments to say water. I can't guarantee I'll get to a lot, as I got a lot going on right now. And also, today is your lucky day, because for every single person who leaves a like on today's video, they'll all receive nothing. I'm not even kidding. Leave a like on the video and you'll get nothing. Fantastic deal. And also, up on screen is a random channel member who left a comment. I just do this every once in a while to say thank you to the people who are channel members. If you want to do that, hit the join button next to the sub button. And yeah, back to the story. Anyway, so Paul and Janet are walking up to the principal's office, and Paul looks at Janet like, just like, why? Why am I here? He doesn't even say anything because, like, I don't think the principal would have, like, allowed for them to have, like, a long conversation as they're walking up pretty quickly. But he just gave her a look. Just kind of a look of, like, dude, I'm not supposed to be here. And Janet kind of gave him this look back like, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm screwed. And, so they get to the principal's office. The teacher drops them off and basically explains real quick what happened. He's like, I saw them both talking to each other. And Janet was, drinking out of a water bottle. And there's probably some, there's pretty obviously some adult apple juice in there. And I don't know if Paul was too, but he was definitely conversating with her, and they could have been passing it back and forth when I wasn't looking. And I'm going to leave it up to your discretion to whatever to do, Mr. Principal Man. And yeah, peace. Teacher leaves. They're both sitting there. Principal just looks at them like, well, what do we have here? What went on, guys? Let me know. And so the principal kind of just asks them, hey, like, from your, like, point of view, what happened? At this point, right, Janet was in a situation where she knew at this point it was practically over for her. Like, it was done. She was kind of done because she had so many strikes against her. The principal knew her on like a first, last, and middle name basis at this point. And, she knew that, she also couldn't get out of it because the teacher had confiscated her water bottle. And she said, it was just water. Obviously, they'd check it and it would be very clearly not water. And at this point, Janet was kind of just thinking to herself, even if this is over for me, even if I was like an idiot for the last time and I got caught finally and it's over, I'm not going to bring down some random guy who's nice to me down with me. And yeah, so what she did basically was she explained to the principals, like, yeah, it was all me. I tried to talk to Paul to get his attention because I thought it'd be interesting. And Paul had literally nothing to do with this. Like, he's obviously a good kid, and he has nothing to do with what I do. I'm going to pay the price for whatever I'm going to pay the consequences are 100% on me. They shouldn't be on Paul. I feel bad that he's even here. And Paul kind of just, like, looks at her like, wow, I appreciate that. And the principal looks at Paul and is just like, is this true? Did you really have nothing to do with it? And Paul's like, yes, I was just there. I really had nothing to do with it. Janet's telling the truth. And the principal's like, all right, Paul, sorry you got roped into this. Like, you can go. And, as Paul's leaving, he looks at Janet and kind of just mouths the words like, thank you. Just to show a little appreciation, because Paul was well aware that this was probably one of the last times he'd probably see Janet, especially in school. This was definitely the last time he'd see her in school, and therefore maybe the last time he'd ever see her, right? And yeah, sure enough, the next day rolls around and Janet's not in class, and eventually, he asks one of his friends who kind of knows a little bit more about what's going on in the school. And yeah, it turns out, Janet got kicked from the school. She had so many strikes against her, even though she kind of like did the right thing at the end. She was really just way too far gone. And Paul kind of got a little sad. Like, obviously, like, Paul didn't know this girl, and also this girl almost got him in trouble for doing nothing, basically. But Paul really did respect the fact that, when she went out at the end, she didn't just go out trying to pull down everyone because she knew that she was going down. She, respectfully got Paul out of the trouble that he didn't deserve to be in. So Paul was a little sad. He's like, you know what? She was actually not that bad. Of course, Paul knew nothing about what else she did or who she was as a person, but he had that one bad experience, but then that also really one good experience. And yeah, moral of the story is just do class in class, okay? Just do class in class. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's someone screen, someone recommended. Do it or I'll cry. So this kid took something he should not have taken during class. At first it was kind of fun, but then it goes terribly wrong. Yeah, this is probably one of the most interesting stories I've received in the second, so sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. So we're calling the subscriber Ben, because we're doing it for the memes and for the culture. And if you want to submit a subscriber story just like Ben did, you can do so on my Instagram or the Discord server. All that stuff is in the description of the video. Anyways, right, so Ben, Ben's in high school. I think he's a junior in high school at this point. And Ben, he kind of self-admitted to me in the story saying, he wasn't the greatest kid in high school, and this actually happened a couple years back. He's in college now. He's kind of gotten his act together, but he was kind of in high school. He kind of did a lot of things he probably shouldn't have. He probably didn't pay as much attention in class as he probably wish he did, and just all that kind of stuff. So just a little disclaimer, I'm going to say it and Ben's going to say it. Please do not do anything that is told in this story. This is simply just a story time for your entertainment, and please just don't go ahead and do anything in it. This is just entertainment and also probably to show you why not to do this. Anyways, let's get right into it. So one day before class, one of Ben's friends comes up to him and says, hey man, like, do you want to do something with me today? And, Ben's like, sure, bro, what do you want to do? And Ben's friends, when he said, do you want to do something with me? Ben kind of assumed that he meant, like, I don't know, skateboard after school or go back and play some Xbox or maybe even, like, I don't know. He didn't expect it to be what this friend was about to offer up. His friend's like, hey man, do you want to take, I'm not going to specify anything too specifically. I don't want to be thunderbolted, but basically think of it as something that you're not supposed to do. It's not something that the laws allow, and also don't do it in school. I don't suggest you do it ever, but just don't do it in school. And at first Ben was like, bro, like, I'm in class. Like, I'm about to go to class in like 10 minutes. I don't know how I feel about that. And Ben's friend, which Ben told me in the DM, saying, you know what, this was, in retrospect, this kid was not a great kid, and he wasn't he's not still friends with this guy, as he kind of realized, nah, this kid shouldn't be my friend. But at the time, this was Ben's friend. And Ben's friend's like, dude, you hate that class. You never participate anyways. Like, you don't even say anything in that class, and you're never called on. So what's the harm if you just decide to have a little fun in that class? And Ben at the time, and he said in retrospect, don't do this. Like, this was so stupid. Ben was like, yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it. So anyways, Ben takes the item from his friend, and his friend's like, all right, bro, like, I got class in 15 minutes too, so I thought it'd just be funny if we both, did this, and then, we'll tell our experiences afterwards, and also have fun in these classes that we're not paying attention in. Side note, pay attention in class, bro. Anyways, right, so Ben takes the item he was given, and, he doesn't feel anything for probably, for those 10 minutes that they were just hanging out before class. Then the bell rings, and Ben's like, all right, I'm gonna go head off to class now, and his friend's like, ha, bro, you'll have a great time, even though you never normally do. And Ben's like, all right, bro. And Ben, he's not feeling anything. He gets into class, sits down. He decides that he normally sits towards the back of the class, but this time he sat way back, and he really decided to choose the seat that he felt like he'd be called on the least and seen the least, and just wouldn't have to deal with anyone during that class. In that class, the teacher never really called on people randomly, because I know at least in my high school, and I'm sure your high school, you had those teachers that would randomly call on people if they weren't participating just to force them to participate, which bro, I'm kind of in the mindset of like, don't force them to participate. Just give them a bad participation grade. Like, there's probably a reason they're not saying anything, dude. Like, I don't think they're too shy, and if they are, don't force them to say it. But anyways, right, Ben, his teacher wasn't like that, so he knew he wasn't going to be called on, but he didn't want his teacher to be like, bro, why are you sweating? Why are you, like, geeking out? Like, so he decided to sit towards the back of the class. So he gets there, gets his stuff out, and just, like, also gets a window seat, because he thinks it's going to be kind of fun to just, like, stare out the window. Anyways, right, so, Ben's just sitting in class, and the teacher begins class, and Ben, at first, he didn't really feel anything, but then he started to feel just, like, I don't know, he felt a little weird, and then he started to look around, and, like, just, like, the entire room around him just, like, was, like, a little bit more intense, like, it was vibrant, or, like, it was sharper. I don't really know. This is how Ben described it to me. And he was like looking out the window, and honestly, he did say looking out the window at first was like a lot of fun because, the outside was just it looked pretty cool. Like, it looked pretty cool. But anyways, right, Ben was for the first like 10 minutes of class, he was having a pretty good time. But he also he was not able at all to pay attention to a word the teacher was saying. He didn't even know if the teacher was talking or not at this point. He was just absorbed into what was going on outside. And obviously I can't really describe it properly, but like it was just interesting. That's all I can say. Is like life outside was just vibrant. It was like interesting. He was super intrigued, maybe because of the thing he was on. But anyways, right, all of a sudden, right, he starts sweating. And he like not just like feels like, oh my God, he starts to sweat. No, he literally starts to sweat buckets. And, he like reaches up and he like with his hand, he feels his forehead, and he drags his palm across the forehead and he looks at it and he kind of like rubs his fingers together and they're all wet. There's a ton of sweat. He's basically just dripping sweat at this point. And while that itself isn't that big of a deal, he starts to like overthink. And if you don't know, like sometimes when you're doing these things, allegedly, like you'll start to overthink and panic over things that don't even really matter. So anyways, he started to think, oh my God, like everyone can see that I'm sweating. Everyone's going to think that, whatever, right? Even though honestly, no one could really tell. And even if they did, they probably would just thought the kid was hot. It was, I mean, not like that, but like they would have just thought that like, I don't know. Cause it was the very beginning of junior year. Like it was still summertime. And at this point, right, Ben is just like, I need to get out of here. Like they're going to figure out that it's me. Obviously he's not thinking 100% straight at this point. So in his kind of like his state, he comes to the conclusion that asking to go to the bathroom and hiding out in the bathroom is the best plan possible. Obviously, right, the best plan possible would have been just sit back there, don't say anything, don't do anything, and when the bell rings, get your stuff, and don't sprint out of class, but power walk out of that class. And if anyone asks, you have another period to get to, or you don't have a lot of time, or you need to go do a project really quickly, or print something out, the plan should not be to draw a ton of attention to yourself by asking if you can use the bathroom. Walk up in front of everyone when the teacher has one-to-one eye contact with you, and go to the bathroom. Like, that's probably the worst plan you could possibly do. But in this state, right, Ben was like, yeah, this is the best plan. This is the best idea. So anyways, right, Ben raises his hand. I'm just going to do the secret word now, just because it gets really interesting after this point. I don't want to interrupt the flow. So comment class if you made it this far. C-L-A-S-S. Yeah, comment class if you made it this far. I just want to see how many people made it this far into the video. Also, I will do my best to heart a bunch of those comments. I am working on a pretty big project, which I think you guys are really going to enjoy. And yeah, while you're down there, leave a like on the video. You'll literally receive nothing in return. It's a fantastic deal. And of course, if you haven't already done so, join the Discord. It's in the description. Anyways, right, Ben raises his hand, and he kind of feels like he raised it normally, but his hands like shot right up. Because at this point, he's not really aware of like how weird it is. Part of this story was told to him by a friend, because this story is basically a combination of what he remembers and what like his friend, who kind of realized early on that something like weird was going on. It like kind of like what his friend was observing the whole time. But anyways, right, he shoots his hand straight up, and it's like super like abrupt and just like whoosh, goes right up. It is super stiff, straight up, like getting as much attention as possible. And the teacher, remember, this is still early enough into the year, so he's like, the teacher's weirded out by this, but he's like, okay, maybe this Ben kid is just like, that's just how he raises his hand. Because remember, Ben's not the greatest student, so he's never really raised his hand before to answer a question, but everyone kind of turns around to look at him. And at this point, right, Ben realizes kind of that like, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea, because everybody turned around to look when the teacher said, yes, Ben, because everyone's like, Ben raised his hand. They all look back, and they notice how his eyes are wide. He's profusely sweating, like he's just looking at them back. Because like at this point, he doesn't say anything because he's like, oh my God, they're all looking at me. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. And the teacher says it again. Yes, Ben? Yes? At this point, Ben doesn't hear the second yes. He's just staring back at everyone else in the class that's staring at him right now, and he's just like... Ben is just like, oh my God, they're all looking at me. They're all looking at me. But then he snaps back into it when the teacher, like, he realizes the teacher walks up to him. He had no idea the teacher was walking up to him. But the next thing he notices, Ben looks up, and the teacher's standing right above him, and is like, Ben, is everything okay? And Ben is like, yeah. Can I use the and he can't get it out. He can't get the word bathroom out correctly. He's like, can I use the bath? Can I go to the bath? At this point, the teacher's just looking at him like, kind of concerned, dude. He's like, Ben, are you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Can I just use? And at this point, the teacher's like, all right, Ben, come with me. And Ben's like, and Ben doesn't really even know what's going on at this point, bro. He has no idea. He's just like, oh, part of him was even like, maybe the teacher's bringing me to the bathroom. Nope, the teacher was not doing that. So Ben stands up, kind of like shakily, and is like, and the teacher's like, all right, come with me. And he like grabs Ben's hand to guide him. Because at this point, right, the teacher's like, all right, this kid is not just like in his normal state. This kid is not just like nervous and can't spit it out, right? This kid's got to come to me. So he grabs Ben's hand, and Ben's like walking to the front. The thing is, Ben doesn't remember walking to the principal's office. But what Ben does remember is, you know, the teacher grabs his hand and then like colors and flashes, and he looks at people's faces, and then all of a sudden, right, boom, he's in the principal's office. Ben's friend who witnessed the whole thing said that like Ben was like walking like weirdly down the aisle and was like looking directly at people, like giving them these big wide-eyed crazy stares, and like everyone's like, yo, what is going on? And at this point, everyone knew that like something was up, that Ben was definitely not acting like his normal self. And probably because Ben was, you know, influenced to act not like his normal self by a outside force that may or may not have been something that he took voluntarily. Like, they kind of got the drift is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, back when Ben kind of like remembers, like kind of snaps back into it, he's sitting at the principal's office. At the desk, the principal is facing him. And also, Ben's teacher is on the other side with the principal. At this point, Ben is just like, what? Ben is just like so confused and scared because he has no idea like how he like teleported there. He's just like, he just like feels like he just like kind of like, I don't know, materialized at that point. And the principal's like, Ben, I need you to talk to me. Like, I need you to like, I need you to hold a conversation with me. Ben, is everything okay? And Ben looks at them and just says, yeah. No elaboration. No, nothing more. No, like, I'm good. I just, like, I don't know. I don't know. He could have even said that, I don't know, he had, like, a panic attack or something, or maybe he was really dehydrated. Like, all the excuses that might have worked, he just couldn't even he couldn't think of them. And he wasn't even going to try to say them, right? He was just like, Yep, I'm good. Yep. Well, kind of looks at the teacher and it's just like, all right, like, something's up. And the principal's just like, all right, Ben, like, just sit here. And, you know, the principal steps outside. And it's just Ben and the teacher at this point. And Ben has kind of snapped into it at this point enough to just sense the awkwardness and just how uncomfortable this whole thing is. And he kind of is just like, unknowingly, right? He kind of remembers that he was just like staring at the principal. At the time, he didn't really register. And he could have not been staring at the principal, but he does kind of remember just like intensely staring at the principal, which really, or not the principal, his teacher who's still in the room. And that obviously makes things a little bit awkward. But anyways, right, the principal comes back and is like, all right, Ben, just wait here. Your mom's going to come to pick you up in like 20 minutes. And at this point, Ben starts freaking out. He's like, you called my mom? And the principal's like, oh, so you can speak, kind of jokingly, right? And Ben's like, at this point, Ben starts having like completely freaking out and starts like kind of like shaking everything. It's like, and at this point, the principal's like, okay, shoot, I shouldn't have, like, I'm not, like, you're good, like, She's coming to get you. There's nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be okay. And Ben's mom was a good mom, right? But she was worried about Ben, and Ben knew that he was going to be in such a load of trouble when his mom got here, because she was not a fan of all the shenanigans he'd been up to. He'd also not been a good student, so it's not like he gets a lot of leeway or a lot of like extra chances. And all the extra chances he already had at this point, he had already used. And Ben is just like, oh no, oh no. And the principal's like, oh, don't worry, Ben, just sit here. It's going to be fine. And they all kind of just sit there awkwardly. And the principal and the teacher are kind of like looking at each other and like talking a little bit, and just like one of the nurses of the school comes in. It's just like, hi, Ben, like, my name is nurse whatever. He has no idea what her name was. He can't remember. He barely remembered the nurse even coming in there. But she's like, hi, I'm nurse whatever. If you need anything, let me know. I brought you some water. At this point, right, Ben didn't even realize, but he was beyond parched. Like, he was so thirsty at this point. So he took the water and downed it in like, he feels like it was like 1 second, but probably it was like 10 or 15 seconds. And the nurse is like, oh, you're thirsty. Like, let me go get you some more. So the nurse goes out, gets Ben some more water. He downs that as well. And eventually on the third cup, he's like kind of like sipping the water and no longer is downing it. And time goes by, and it kind of feels slow and fast at the same time in his recollection. But eventually, right, Ben is sitting in the chair and he hears the door open. And at first he thinks it's like another staff member or another nurse, but he turns around and he looks, and it's his mom. But anyways, right, Ben just looks directly at his mom's face, and he recalls that, like, she wasn't, like, angry or scared or mad or happy. She was just pretty expressionless, and she was like, all right, Ben, come with me. We're going home. And the principal is like, all right, I'll give you, like, a report of, like, what happened. Like, if you have any questions, let me know. We can fill you in. And his mom's like, yeah, okay, that's good. And she's just kind of like, all right, Ben, come with me. Let's go. And Ben is like walking with his mom. And his mom just isn't saying anything. And that's probably for the better, because Ben probably couldn't formulate a response anyways. And yeah, so, he gets in the car, sits in the back seat. He always sits in the front. But today he was like, I can't face my mom right now. I just can't honestly talk to anyone. And they get in the car, and the drive back is like pretty chill. It's like pretty just like nothing's happening. And then, all of a sudden, Ben realizes they're not going to his house. They're driving to like the nearby hospital, and he's like kind of freaking out at this point. And Ben's mom's like, Ben, don't worry about it. Just chill out back there. And so they drive to the hospital, and they get there, and Ben's just sitting in the waiting room, just like looking around, staring at people. And, eventually, this nurse comes up to Ben and is like, hey, you're going to come with me. And, Ben's mom walks with them, and they go in there, they do some testing, and, Ben's just kind of sitting there just like wide-eyed, looking everywhere. And eventually the doctor most likely goes and tells, Ben doesn't remember this specifically, but he assumes that the doctor went up to Ben's mom after doing some like blood work and tests and stuff. By the way, getting the blood from his arm was very difficult because he was freaking out the whole time. But eventually, right, they do some testing or I don't know if it was like pee in a cup. Either way, somehow they test him, figured out what it was. And they're just like, and Ben's mom's like, okay. She apparently took it very, very well. And the doctor's like, he's going to be totally fine. Just like hang out with him for a while. Or basically just make sure he doesn't go outside or anything. Just keep him in the house. And, Ben's mom's like, okay, all right, Ben, come with me. And they go back in the car and they drive back. And, Ben's just kind of sitting on the couch. His mom puts on a movie and he kind of just sits there and eventually goes to sleep. And when Ben wakes up, he's like, kind of looks around. He's like, oh, shoot. Because then he remembers everything that happened the day before. And he checks his phone, and it's like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So he's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like, I must have like been asleep for a couple hours. Then he checks the date, and he has to look at it for a little while. He's not been asleep for a couple hours. He's been asleep for like 25 hours at this point. And he goes into the kitchen, and his mom's at the table, and he's like, Mom, I'm so sorry. And his mom's like, Ben, it's okay. Just promise me, you'll never do anything like that again. And Ben was so shocked. He was sure that she was just going to chew him out. And Ben was even said like, of course, this was like a terrible idea, but I'm kind of shocked that like this is it for the punishment. She's like, Ben, like, I don't know, like you're going to do what you want to do. Like at some point, like, I can't make up the decisions for you. Like, you got to make the mistakes on your own. I'll always be here for you, but, like, it's kind of on you. And that's kind of the end of the story. However, a little mini story afterwards. After that point, Ben started to like realize like how messed up like he'd been and like all that kind of stuff and how messed up his life had been for like a couple years at this point. And while his grades didn't fully recover and he didn't become an A+ student, he definitely kind of like stopped doing stuff that was like he shouldn't be doing. And he got his grades a little bit better together. And he got into he had no plans on going to college, but he filled out an application and went to his local community college. And he is currently a sophomore. And I think I don't know exactly, but he's doing pretty well, he told me. And yeah, this is just a story from his childhood that was very interesting. So I appreciate the submission. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch one of the 4 videos on screen right now or some videos in the recommended. Click one of those and I'll be happy forever.
Today we got a story of another Zoom class disaster. This is probably one of the most interesting ones I've been sent in a while. So yeah, sit back, relax, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, and let's just get right into it. Anyways, right, so the person who sent in this story, we're going to call her Allie. And I get all the names from the comments, so leave a comment of some names you'd like me to use. And if you want to send in a story as well, you can either send it into my Instagram or join the Discord server and send it in there. All that stuff is in the description. Anyways, right, so Allie, she's on a Zoom class, right? And at this point, this is back when, like, everything was on Zoom and everyone was on Zoom. And Allie had a friend in this class, and it was probably her best friend. And we're going to call her best friend Isabella. And I got both these names from the comments. Once again, leave comments of names you want me to use. I do use them. In fact, I'm not creative enough because I just use Ben every time. Anyways, right? So Allie and Isabella, they're both in this class. And, they're kind of bored, bro, I'll be honest. And they really don't feel as if, attending this class is really making, improving their odds of success. Because the thing is, Allie and Isabella, they're both, like, pretty decent students, bro. Like, they got their work done and they had pretty good grades. However, they felt as if, like, they didn't really need to be in class to do well. However, this was a class that really did count attendance. So if they didn't attend one day or didn't attend for many days at a time or just in general didn't really attend, they would probably not get the greatest grades at all. In fact, like, that's part of, like, participation. Wasn't even really, kids, like, raising hands and talking or anything. It was a little bit of that, but it was mostly just, like, you showing up. So Allie and Isabella kind of thought to themselves, like, all right, we're doing well in this class. Most of it is, like, out of class. Like, most of the actual grade is, like, homework and assignments and stuff like that they do out of class. So they're just like, why do we actually have to, like, show up to class every day? So Allie and Isabella one day were talking to each other, and they were just like, we both I think like Allie brought it up and Isabella agreed that, attending class didn't really feel necessary and they kind of felt like it was a waste of time. And also they hadn't seen each other in a little while. At this point, right, everyone was on Zoom, but people could kind of like go out if you were proper. We all lived through it. We all know what it was like. But anyways, right, so they wanted to, see each other, but they also were like, okay, class kind of feels like a waste of time. So Isabella suggests to Allie, like, why don't you just come over to my house tomorrow from 9 to 4? And she's like, wait, but don't we have class at 10 to 11? And Allie was like, yeah, we do, but we don't really the class is pretty useless. How about we show up, mute our mics, mute our computers, and we just hang out the entire time? And Allie at first was a little bit skeptical because she was always worried about something going wrong or something going wrong with the Zoom class, and basically just she was worried about something going wrong. And in retrospect, Allie was 100% right, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyways, right, so Allie eventually was like, you know what? Yeah, I kind of been feeling like I've been wasting my time in Zoom class. Like, Isabella, you're right. Tomorrow, I'll come over, I'll bring my computer, we'll both log in, and then we'll just turn off our cameras, turn off our mics, and go about our day, right? And so anyways, right, the next day rolls around, and Allie goes over, and, Allie's mom just doesn't really think much of it. She kind of just lets Allie do what she wants, because, Allie's mom had the whole idea of, or had the whole parenting concept of, if your kid is doing well, let them do what they want, and if they're not doing well, give them guidance. And Allie's grades were really good, and she never got into trouble, so Allie's mom kind of didn't look into anything Allie did and was like, all right, well, if you're going to make a mistake, well then, yeah, I guess that'll be a learning experience, but as of now, do what you want, really. So yeah, Allie went over to Isabella's house as they lived in the same neighborhood and it wasn't that far of a walk, and she showed up, and Isabella's like, all right,
are you ready for your day off, basically? And she's like, yeah, this feels a little weird, and I'm still a little anxious, but I want to see how it goes. And Isabel's like, Allie, you got nothing to worry about. You got literally nothing to worry about. What could go wrong? First of all, if you ever trying to, like, do something that could get you in trouble, and one of your partners in crime says what could go wrong, I would say cut it there, cut your losses there, because whatever is going to go wrong is going to go wrong after your partner in crime says that. That's all I'm saying. So anyways, right, the time eventually comes, the class is about to start. So Allie, goes into another room and logs into the Zoom class, and Isabella goes into her room and logs into the Zoom class. And they're both on their computers, and they greet the professor. They're like, hey, professor, how's it going? And the professor's like, Allie, you have a different background. Like, because Allie had been in the same background every single day. And Allie, it was like, and she's like, oh, it's just a different room in my house. I wanted to change up scenery. The professor thought literally nothing of it, because honestly, that's valid, bro. I changed up scenery every once in a while during Zoom classes. Like, I get that. That's legit. So anyways, right, Allie's like, all right, well, thank you. And then Allie and Isabella both mute their microphones and turn off their cameras. But anyways, right, so they mute their mics, they turn off their cameras, and then they go into the same room together. And, Allie's like, oh, Isabella, did you check to see if your camera and mic are muted? And she's like, yeah, I did. Like, they're good. And Allie rushes over to Isabella's computer and checks, and sure enough, like, yeah, the mic is muted, the camera's turned off. And Isabella's like, Allie, why are you so spazzing out about this? Like, there's literally no reason. You're good. And Allie's like, I'm fine. I just really don't want to get into trouble. And Isabella's like, relax. We're good. And in fact, they were good. The mics were muted, the cameras were turned off. Most kids in the class were muted with their were muted with their cameras off anyways, so it didn't seem suspicious. And Allie and Isabella had a pretty good day. Like, they went through that class just hanging out, doing stuff. This is gonna sound lame, but I don't know what girls do when they hang out, bro. Like, I know what the guys do, because, like, I hang out with a lot of guys. And I don't know, whenever I do hang out with girls, it's normally a group activity and we'll do stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be great at storytelling for that. They engage in girl activities, which is probably, I don't know, solving quadratic equations, mining Bitcoin, playing with their abacus. That's probably my best guess at the moment, dude. I've literally no idea what they do. But anyways, they have a pretty fun day together. And eventually, like, when the class ends, they both go back to their separate rooms. And they unmute them, and they're like, oh, thank you so much, like, professor, whatever. And they turn off their cameras, and they leave, and yeah. So that's and they come back together, and Isabella's like, so that worked perfectly. And Allie's like, you know what, that went really smoothly. Like, I don't see why we can't do that again. And Isabella's like, oh, the plan is to do it again, Allie. You do realize that this is what we're going to keep on doing. And Allie's like, at first I was kind of wary about this. Like, I didn't know how I feel, but honestly, like, this kind of feels foolproof. Which, by the way, I said this earlier, if someone in your heist says this is foolproof, nothing could go wrong, or we're invincible, dude, you're in for a lot of trouble. That's all I'm gonna say. Real quick, if you hear this, comment Zoom. I just want to see how many people made it this far into the video, as I do appreciate the watch time. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments too. I'm busy building something right now, big secret coming up. You guys should really like it. Also, it's your lucky day, because I'll leave everyone who leaves a like on the video will actually receive nothing. And if you want 0 seconds of good luck, make sure to join the Discord in the description. Anyways, back to where the story gets interesting. So anyways, right, Allie and Isabella do this for a couple days. They don't just do it for a couple days, they do it for the rest of the week. And, whenever you do something successfully, you probably get a little sloppier. You get a little cocky, right? You don't really check as hard. You don't really check as closely. And, you guys can probably, by the title, realize that, this didn't go smoothly the entire time, that things didn't go well after a while. But anyways, right, so, this is just probably, I think, around 2 weeks into Allie and Isabella doing this every single day. They've had a lot of fun hanging out together, right? And there are other classes they take. They do not have one class. So whenever there is a class they do actually have to take, they'll actually do it in the room or whatever, because they're hanging out for the whole day, and they have separate rooms, so they could actually take classes that they have to take. With this class, they basically meet in almost every single day. This one they don't actually have to do. And Allie and Isabella are starting to realize that there's multiple classes they do that they don't actually have to show up and participate in to get a good grade. Because they're not slacking off, man. they're just kind of maximizing their time, you know? They're trying to get a good grade, but also not, you know, do stuff they don't want to do. But anyways, 2 weeks into the process, same class, same deal as always. Allie and Isabella, they go into separate rooms and they say, thank you so much, like, or not, or like, not thank you so much, but they're like, good morning, professor or teacher or whatever. And then they turn off their cameras, they mute their mics, and then Allie heads over to Isabella's room. And as always, Allie walks into Isabella's room, and Isabella's like, all right, like, do you just want to hang out for now? And they're like, yeah, sure. And Isabella's like, oh, actually, like, you know, there's this pretty cool show, like, it's on Netflix, I'll put it up. So basically, Isabella's still in her Zoom class, and the Zoom class, like, is on her Mac, and her Mac is on her desk, which is in her room. She also has a bed in her room. Because she sleeps on, well, yeah, Connor, because she sleeps on the floor, bro. Congrats, great observation. No, but seriously, bed in her room. I'm trying to, like, paint the picture here, guys. I'm sorry. Bed in her room, and they both sit on the bed. But then there's also, right, there's also a TV that's, like, facing across from them. So, like, you can see the TV when you're on the bed. But also, the desk is right across from the bed. So they're sitting on the bed, watching the TV, and also they're occasionally just, like, looking at the Zoom class, which they're muted, and their cameras are off. They thought. So right now, Allie and Isabella are both on Isabella's bed. They're both kind of like looking on their phones, but also watching a movie. And yeah, they kind of like occasionally look back at Isabella's desk, which is facing right across from them. They look at the Zoom class or whatever and kind of think nothing of it. And at this point, right, you know, Allie, she's just on her phone, looking at Instagram or whatever, when she gets a text notification from someone in her class. And she's just kind of like, okay, like, that's weird. And she opens up the text message. And when she reads the text message, her heart just drops. Because the message reads, yo, like, Isabella's camera's not off. Like, I can see you, like, in her, on her couch, like, on your phone. Like, yo, you got to fix that. And Allie's just, like, doesn't want to seem panicked. Because she doesn't want to, like, make a scene, right? But obviously, it's now apparent to her that Isabella, in her either cockiness/sloppiness, didn't completely turn the camera off correctly. She probably muted the mic correctly because, you know, that would have, like, given it away much faster, but did not turn off the camera correctly. So right now, the entire class, including the teacher, could see her and Isabella sitting far away on Isabella's bed on their phones, not paying attention. So at this point, Allie, like, leans over to Isabella and is like, hey, like, we got a problem. And Isabella's like, what? And Allie's like, don't freak out because we don't want to make a scene. And Isabella's like, what? And Allie's like, hey, I just got a text message and I'll just show you what it is. And Allie, like, takes her phone, like, kind of, like, shows it to Isabella, and Isabella's face drops as well. Because, right, they don't want to get caught. These two girls have never gotten in trouble before. They're just farming the system to get good grades and not pay attention, you know? And at this point, right, they're like, shoot. And Allie's like, I don't think the teacher's noticed us yet, because the teacher definitely is the type of teacher to call kids out if they would have done anything like this, right? So Allie's like, I guess the teacher didn't notice. And, you know, Isabella's like, well, the teacher is going to notice when we make a lot of commotion and run up there. Because, like, the teacher has, like, a view of all the screens. And unless there's, like, really... So their theory is, like, if there's sudden movement, like them running up to, like, turn off the camera, like, then he'll notice the sudden movement and call them out. But at the moment, the reason why they were never called out before is, you know, they were just sitting on the bed. For some reason, he didn't notice Allie walking into the room, but I guess that movement wasn't sudden enough or he just wasn't paying attention. But either way, it'd be a pretty big risk to go and, like, turn off the Zoom meeting. Either way, Allie kind of looked at Isabella and was like, I'm going up there to turn it off. I'll be sneaky. I'll be slow. Don't worry about it. And Isabella's like, is it worth the risk? And Allie's like, well, we can't have the camera on like this. He's eventually going to look down and see it. Isabella's like, all right, good luck. So Allie gets up, slowly, just normally, goes up, sits down at the desk, and turns off the camera. And Isabella's like, oh my God, that was way too close. That was way too close. And Allie's like, yeah, that's too close. If we're doing this again, we need to triple check. So anyways, Allie goes back into the other room, is just kind of like sitting at her computer and still kind of freaking out a little bit. And yeah, eventually the class ends and, you know, Allie and, Allie and Isabella, I forgot the name, I'm sorry, Allie and Isabella, they unmute their mics and they say, thank you, Professor. And the professor didn't say anything. So they kind of feel like, oh, we just got off the hook. Yep, they did not get off the hook. A little spoiler. They realized they did not get off the hook when about 3 hours after the class, Isabella called Allie in. She's like, Allie, you need to come in here right now. And Allie's like, shoot, what happened? Not even thinking about the class at all. And yeah, Isabella opened up her computer and Allie looked at it, and Isabella was opened up to her email, and there was an email from their teacher, and the heading was titled disappointed. You already know you're in trouble if the header is disappointed. And basically the email goes on to say that the teacher, one of the kids was out of class for the day and requested that the teacher send him, the appropriate clips of the recorded version of the class. Basically, just to send him the recorded version of the class so that he could study. And so the teacher went back, found the recorded file, and watched a little bit of it, and watched enough of it that he saw, Isabella not turning off her camera, Allie walking in, and then proceeded to watch enough of it to realize that those two had just been, hanging out the same house, pretending to be in class, but really just sitting on each other's beds, on their phones. And the teacher says, hey, you two are really good students. I'm not going to get you in trouble. But, one, I'd like an apology because I feel a little disrespected. And two, this just can't happen again. So obviously, Allie and Isabella, they go up and they go write up some pretty big, apology emails saying they will never happen again. And Allie and Isabella, by the end of the day, say, hey, I think we're just in too deep. I really like, Allie's like, I like hanging out with you, but we just can't do this again. On a non-school day, hit me up, let's do this again, but I just can't do this again in a school day. Isabella completely agrees. Subscribe if you haven't already, and now do me a huge favor and click on one of the 4 videos on screen or some of the videos in the sidebar, and I'll be very happy.
In today's story, the subscriber takes something she really shouldn't have, and she has to go to a family dinner afterwards, and it goes absolutely terribly. This is probably one of the most interesting stories I've ever received, so yeah, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent in the story Phoebe, which, by the way, leave a comment for a name you want me to use. I got the name Phoebe from the comments. And Phoebe, she sent in this story, and if you want to send in a story, you can do so to my Discord or Instagram. Both are in the description. And yeah, so anyways, right, so this was just started off as a normal Saturday, right? Wonderful day, right? Who doesn't like themselves a good Saturday? So right, Phoebe's a good kid, but she tries some stuff every once in a while, and I will publicly say, do not try stuff like this, do not get into this. Maybe it won't go bad for you, but there's always a chance it will, and I just want you guys to do well. But I think this story is interesting and maybe an example of why you shouldn't get into this stuff. So yeah, anyways. So, Phoebe was someone who, would mess with this stuff every once in a while, but genuinely, wasn't doing it, every day or something like that. But anyways, right, Phoebe, one day, she was just it was one Saturday, so it was a weekend. She was just kind of hanging out until she got a text from her friend saying, hey, do you want to come over quickly? So they all lived in the same neighborhood, so Phoebe could have literally just have a 5-minute walk. But Phoebe said, hey, what's up? Why do you want me to come over? And the friend is like, I have something cool to show you. And Phoebe's like, can you say what it is? And the friend just says, surprise, come over. So yeah, Phoebe, gets up, walks 5 minutes over to the friend's house and, greets the friend at the door. And the friend's like, hey, what's up? Come up to my room. But anyways, right, Phoebe, goes up to her friend's house and, the friend said, hey, come up to my room. So they both go up to, Phoebe's friend's room. And, Phoebe was kind of just looking around, just so what's the surprise? And Phoebe's friend says, take a look at this. And she reaches over to her backpack, kind of rustles around for a second, and opens up one of the interior pockets. There's a interior zip-in pocket in the backpack, reaches in and pulls something out. And Phoebe looks at it, and it's just a bag with little white dots inside. And Phoebe's just I don't know what that is. And, her friend's like, oh, Phoebe, do you want to have a fun experience today? And the thing is, right, Phoebe's just all right, well, there's nothing I have to do later today. So, I'm chilling. Things are pretty good. And at this point, right, Phoebe, she was kind of bored. She didn't have anything planned for the day. She's going to do her homework tomorrow anyways. So she was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Because at this point, right, obviously Phoebe would not take this from a random person, but she was very good friends with this person who, was, went to very specific people and made sure that the stuff that she got was not going to mess her up as well. Obviously don't do this in general, but, Phoebe was not just taking it from some random homeless person being like, hey, eat this, you'll have a fun rest of your life. She's not just doing it from some rando or some sketchy kid comes into school and says, hey, Phoebe. Yeah? take this. No, don't. She's not like that. It's still not good to do that in general, but at least she's not like that guy, right? Anyways, right, so Phoebe, she ingests the magic thing. I'm not going to get into it any more than that. And she was feeling fine. She's like, all right, well, I think it's probably best that I go back home. And, Phoebe's friend's like, haha, yeah, just let me know what happens. Like, keep me updated or whatever. And so, yeah, Phoebe walks back home and doesn't really feel anything. Most likely the effects of this will take a little while to hit in, but when they do, they definitely do. Anyways, right, so Phoebe gets back to the house, and, she sees her mom, like, grinding away in the kitchen, bro. Like, her mom is going, like, full force, like, getting food ready, washing dishes, and she kind of looks at her and she's like, Mom, like, why are you going so, like, why are you making so much food? Is, like, because, like, her mom wasn't someone who'd, like, make food for the week or anything. I don't know if that's a thing the parents do sometimes, because, like, I mean, my mom does it, like, occasionally, like, she'll make stuff for later, but, like, Phoebe's mom was making food what seemed like for, like, the entire week, and this was just not anything that was normal, right? So she kind of went to her mom, she's like, Mom, like, why are you making all this food? And Phoebe's mom's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you, we're having your grandparents over for dinner tonight. Phoebe just kind of looked at her like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. You gotta be seriously kidding me, bro. She didn't actually say that, but she was just like, oh, really? So anyways, Phoebe's like, oh, when are they coming? And her mom's like, they're coming at 5. And Phoebe looks at her phone, and it is 1:30, and she's like, okay, Mom, okay. And her mom's like, I expect you to be there. And Phoebe's like, yeah, okay. At that point, Phoebe should have said, like, oh, I was already planning on going to, like, my friend's house or something. Or Phoebe should have just, I mean, it was a tough position for Phoebe anyways, but the fact that her mom didn't tell her beforehand, she might have been able to get out of it, but only might have. But obviously her mom was definitely wanted Phoebe to be there for, her grandparents' dinner. She doesn't see her grandparents often, etc. like that. But, yeah, so Phoebe went upstairs and was like, all right, I just got to get through this. It's in 4 hours from now, or 4.5 hours from now. No, 3.5 hours. I can't do math. I've been doing the secret word of the day kind of early, and that's because I don't like interrupting the flow of videos to get, like, really interesting kind of soon. So yeah, comment grandma if you made it this far. I'll try and heart a bunch of those comments, and while you're down there, leave a like on the video. You'll literally receive nothing. It is a fantastic deal. But anyways, right, Phoebe goes upstairs, and she's just like, oh, jeez, like, oh, shit, like, oh, God. What am I gonna do, bro? Like, for real, what am I gonna do? And she's like, all right, plan is, I got 3.5 hours or whatever, and I'm just going to wait it out. I'm just going to deal with the effects as they come, and hopefully, by the time my grandparents come, and I'm not going to greet them any early, if they come early, I'm not coming down, right? But when they come at 5, as I was told, I will go downstairs, I will hold minimal conversations, I will go to the bathroom and just try and, like, if I need it, I'll just squeeze more time that I can just, like, slightly come down from this, right? I'm just going to do my best to make it through the night. That's all I got to do. And while Phoebe was sitting there, she realized that, like, stuff in her room was starting to just look weird. And she's like, all right, oh boy, here we go. Here it starts. All of a sudden, she hears her mom yell, Phoebe! But when she heard it, it was kind of, like, distorted and a little gargle, and she's like, oh, crap. Like, why? Why me? Why now? And she yells back, yeah? And her mom's like, come down, please. At this point, Phoebe's like, okay, I'm not too far into this. I can make this. I can survive. So Phoebe walks down the stairs and is very carefully walking down the stairs, because they're looking a little colorful and a little strange, and she's afraid that she's going to step on a stair that doesn't actually exist, if you know what I mean. So she gets down there, and she just looks at her mom, and her mom's like, Phoebe, are you okay? And Phoebe's like, yeah. And Phoebe's mom's like, you're looking at me very strangely. And Phoebe's like, no, I'm not. And her mom's like, all right, whatever, right? Can you just, like, help me, like, just bring this outside, bring it into the trash, and just come back? Anyways, right, so Phoebe grabs the trash and is just looking at it, and it's all, like, colorful and weird, and she's like, oh, God. So she goes outside, and is just, like, walking, and it feels like she's walking for, like, 3 hours at this point. And, she's just kind of, like, walking around, and she completely forgot what she was doing with the whole thing of, like, trash in her hand. And she goes around, she's just kind of, like, walking, she's just exploring the outside, until she hears her name, Phoebe! And she turns around and her mom is like, what are you doing? And Phoebe kind of like snaps into it, kind of, and realizes that she's a bag of trash in her hand. And she's literally walking around in the neighbor's yard. And she's like, sorry, got distracted. And then like walks back, puts the trash in the trash, and is like, all right, Mom, I'm not feeling so well. I'm going up to my room. And her mom's like, okay then. Her mom's a little suspicious at this point. Because like she had never caught Phoebe doing anything in the past, but she had her own suspicions, and Phoebe was definitely acting a little strange at this point. And yeah, she definitely had the right to be suspicious because Phoebe was acting very, very weird, to say the least. Like, she was definitely like, she kind of like spacing out. Obviously was just walking around randomly in the neighbor's yard with a bag of trash. If that does not seem a little suspicious to you, then you're not paying attention. I don't know how else to say it. But anyways, right, Phoebe goes upstairs and is kind of just chilling for the next couple hours as kind of like her experience becomes more intense. And the problem was, right, she had no idea, like, she had no sense of time at this point. She had no, like, idea of, like, what time it was actually going to be. Because, you know, what felt like 10 minutes to her, you know, she checked her phone and it was, like, 4:50 or something. It was basically 5 o'clock. And she was at no point, in no way at all ready to go downstairs. But she's just sitting there, starting to panic a little bit because she's realizing that she's in no condition to go downstairs. And she's not about to tell her mom because her mom really has no explicit idea that she does stuff like this. And she knows that she's going to get completely whipped, like completely destroyed. Like she will get grounded for the next, I don't know, 5 years if her mom ever figures this out. So she's just sitting there kind of just nervous. And then all of a sudden she hears her mom yell down, Phoebe, your grandparents are here. And she looks at her phone and it's like 5 minutes before. And she's like, of course, grandparents didn't even give me 5 more minutes to prepare. I mean, it's not like they knew, but whatever. So she goes downstairs and her grandparents are down there. And she's like, hi, Grandma. And her grandparents are like, hi, Phoebe. Because imagine, right? You're going to see your grandkid. You're so excited, and you walk in, and normally they just kind of look at you, smile, and say hello. But all of a sudden, they look at you with the wide eyes, look at both of you, and scream, hi, Grandma! And her mom is like, what the fuck? And her mom's just like, what? So her mom responds, haha, someone's acting funny today, because, like, someone's a comedian. And Phoebe, for some reason, it was obviously because of the state she was in, but for some reason, she thought this was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. So she just bursts out laughing and does not stop laughing. At this point, her grandparents at first, like, smiled, and then they just stopped smiling after, like, 10 seconds of her laughing. Because right at this point, her grandparents are like, all right, something's up. And her grandmother, like, turns to, you know, her mom, and she's like, yeah, like, something's up. Like, I think we should call an ambulance. Her mom's like, I have no idea what's wrong. Like, she's never like this. I think that's a good idea. And Phoebe at this point has no idea what's going on because she just can't stop laughing at this comment that she finds uncontrollably funny at this point. Obviously, in retrospect, it was not even funny at all. It had no humor. If anything, it was a comment out of concern. But she thought this is the funniest thing ever. And she just keeps laughing, and she has no idea what's happening as her own grandmother calls an ambulance. So she just sits there, and her grandparents and her mom are not acting like, what's going on? They're not freaking out. They're just very calm. They're like, let's go sit in the living room. So they all go over to the living room, and Phoebe's still kind of giggling a little bit at what's going on. And Phoebe's not paying attention to anything. She's kind of staring off into space and just, like, kind of looking around and kind of just staring off into, like, one of the paintings in the room. Because at this point, if you can only imagine, yeah, it's pretty interesting to look at for various reasons. But anyways, right, all of a sudden, Phoebe feels like her grandmother, like, grab her arm, not aggressively or anything, but just enough to, like, guide her. And Phoebe just kind of goes with it because she's like, all right, whatever, it's just grandma. And they walk outside, and she's just like, all right, whatever, it's just grandma and I walking out. Oh, my God, there's an ambulance. And she looks at it. There's paramedics. There's an ambulance. There's flashing lights. And she's like, okay. Was I obvious? Was I that obvious? And she's starting to because she's starting to come down a little bit, and she's starting to realize, oh no, I did just laugh hysterically for 2 minutes at a joke that wasn't funny or even a joke. Yeah, I did scream, hi, Grandma, to both of them, and it was very weird. Yeah, okay, maybe I was a little obvious. But anyways, right, she's like, okay, I can't fight it now. She gets in, and she kind of, like, loses it again. Not, like, goes insane or anything, but just, like, doesn't really, kind of just like stares off into space. And the next thing she kind of realizes, she's in a hospital bed. They come back, they do all these tests. They say, hey, your daughter's on whatever, super funny juice, the whatever things, stuff, balls. Bro, I'm not trying to get thunderbolted. Anyways, and her mom's just like, and her grandmother and her grandfather just no reaction, because, like, bro, they were vibing in the 70s. They already know what's up. And her grandparents just say, like, they go to her mom, because her mom is, like, has no idea, like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And they go to her mom basically saying, hey, we brought her here because we want to make sure that, you know, whatever she had wasn't, like, infused, or I don't want to use the actual word, but, like, was attached with something else that would be potentially dangerous, and it doesn't look like it is. You know, you should definitely talk to your daughter and make sure she doesn't do this in the future, but, like, she's not a bad kid, obviously. I mean, her grades are good. She seems to be like she's a good kid, right? Don't take this the wrong way. But you should definitely talk to her, make sure she doesn't do this again. And her mom's just like, kind of like, her mom says, like, I don't really know. Like, I don't understand this stuff, obviously. And maybe you do, Mom, ? What? And her mom's like, hey, your dad and I lived in the 70s. We've been through it. Like, you know what? We'll have the conversation with her. And at this point, Phoebe was kind of paying attention, and she's like, oh, no, I have to talk to my grandma about this? No, dude, like, no, like, a punishment enough would be to talk to my mom, but also now my grandma? So she gets discharged from the hospital, and they just say, hey, just have her go to sleep. So they drive back to the house, and, you know, Phoebe goes to sleep, and she sleeps for, like, 15 hours or something. She wakes up the next day, goes downstairs, is kind of like, oh my God, this is so awkward. Her mom just, like, greets her like normal, and they have breakfast/lunch at this point. And then her mom's like, hey, your grandmother's in the other room. Can you go talk to her? At this point, Phoebe's like, oh. She knew she wasn't going to get off the hook, right? There's no shot she was getting off the hook. But she goes over, goes to her grandmother, and kind of sits down. Her grandmother's like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, like, you're not in trouble. I used to do that stuff a lot, but there's a lot of, I just got to talk to you about it for a second. And she basically just gives her, like, a good old education on, like, how to be safe, why not to do that stuff, how potentially dangerous it is, but also that she's not a bad person for doing it or anything. By the end of the conversation, Phoebe felt pretty good. She also felt pretty certain she was not going to do it again for many reasons. Some were the reasons of what happened that night before, but some were also the reasons of, well, what her grandmother said. Like, that was actually a much better conversation than she expected. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some on the sidebar. Watch it and I'll be very happy.
Took something he really shouldn't have before a class field trip, and let me just say that, yeah, it was very bad. Very bad. This is probably one of the most interesting stories I've received, so make sure to watch till the end. And with that being said, sit back, relax, leave a like to claim your free nothing, and let's get right into it. If you want to send in a story too, you can send one into my Instagram or the Discord server. Both are in the description of this video. So today's subscriber we're going to call Jeffrey, and I got the name from the comments, so leave a comment for a name. Anyways, right, so Jeffrey, he knew that he was going on a class trip, and Jeffrey was a senior in high school. At this point, right, he already got into a college. Like, he was really cruising at this point. If you ever heard like the phrase senioritis, you know, the phrase senioritis basically means, or basically refers to seniors in high school who already know what they're doing, and also really their grades don't matter anymore. I mean, for a lot of colleges, they will continue to kind of monitor your grades, and if you slip below a certain percentage or certain decrease, that they might reconsider admissions, and that's like part of the deal or whatever. But in most cases, your grades can slip at least a little bit, and no one's going to really care, and it's honestly not going to matter. And a lot of people, you know, that have senioritis don't just do that for, like, grades. They also don't attend classes, and more or less their attitude is a lot more lax and not really caring. And anyways, right, Jeffrey is a senior, and it is spring, right? So he is in a full force case of senioritis. And he has a big class trip going on, and the class trip is to go see some dinosaur fossils. It's for his history class. It's not, like, super related to the course, but at the end of the day, the teacher also realized that, yeah, this is senior spring. Let's just go ahead and do something fun. So anyways, right, Jeffrey was, like, you know, preparing, you know, kind of excited to go on this trip, and they were going on a Friday. So it was, like, double hype, because one, it was going to be a Friday preparing for the weekend, and two, they were going on a field trip, like, hey, man, like, life is good. But on that Thursday, right, his friends are like, come up to him and they say, hey, this field trip's going to be pretty fun, but do you want to make it even more fun? And Jeffrey was like, I guess. friends come up to Jeffrey and they hand him something that's like wrapped in a paper towel. And they look at him, they say, take this 30 minutes before we get on the bus and you're going to have a great field trip. At this point, right, Jeffrey was a little suspicious and he knew these people were a little bit sketchy. But at the same time, these were still his friends and he knew that, like, he was like, you know what? This will be fun. Like, whatever, man. I'm already in college. I'm just cruising anyways. It doesn't really matter. And, you know, this will just make the experience even more fun. And let me just say that it definitely enhanced the experience, meaning it made it more of an experience, but not in a positive way at all. So at this point, right, the next day rolls around and Jeffrey's in a math class because he has a math class before the history class. And while he has other classes after the history class, he was able to opt out of them because, you know, the teacher requested that he did and told all the teachers, no, it's legit. We're going on like a field trip. He's not just skipping. So, you know, when Jeffrey was in math class, he excused himself and he said, hey, teacher, can I go to the bathroom? Teacher said, yeah, whatever, make it fast. Jeffrey goes to the bathroom, takes the magical thing, the magical bean is what I'm going to call it for the sake of not getting exploded by YouTube. Right? Jeffrey takes the magical bean in the bathroom, goes back to class, sits there, waits for the rest of the 20 minutes of class, is not really feeling anything, and is like, oh, did they just give me a dud or something? He said, whatever, right, it's going to be a good field trip. So eventually, right, you know, the bell rings, he goes to history class, and he meets up with all of his friends, and his friends is like, hey, man, did you take the thing? And he's like, yeah. And his friends look at him like, all right, man. Any minute now. And he's like, oh, okay, so it wasn't a dud. They're like, no, it takes a second, man. It takes a second. So he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And the history teacher is like, all right, is everyone here? Takes attendance. Is like, all right, let's head over to the bus. So as Jeffrey's walking over to the bus, right, you know, he starts to feel just like a weird tingly sensation. It just feels weird to him, but also in a good way. Like, he's kind of like, he's happy, he's excited, it's the weekend, he's going on a field trip with his friends, this is also the last period of the day, like, life is good, man, things are good. And he just turns to his friend and smiles and is like, life is good, man. And then his friend just starts laughing like, you're right about that, bro. Let me just say that this part was pretty good. This was a good part of the experience. And this is about where all the good parts of the experience end, right here. This is the end. Anyways, right, Jeffrey gets on the bus and he sits with one of his friends. And Jeffrey decides to stare out the window. And this is where things start to get interesting because there's a lot of like foresty trees like on the driveway because they have to go drive like 20 minutes to the place. It wasn't that far out, but there was a lot of like greenery, right? There was a lot of like, I don't know, like forest on the highway. And Jeffrey was just infatuated with it. It was just so interesting to him because as the colors and shapes and just like whirled by him, they were obviously quite enhanced when he was viewing it, if you know what I mean. They were just so vibrant and they were kind of like making up kind of like a life of their own, bro. Like they were kind of twisting and turning and it almost felt like they were there with them, like they weren't just a tree, like it was there as well, which was kind of a weird feeling, and he just couldn't stop watching them, even though he started to feel a little bit more and more uncomfortable as time went on, as if like these trees were trying to like talk back to him or something. He didn't like, he remembers not actually hearing anything from these trees, because when you hear trees talk to you, it's time to run, but no, he just saw them, he's just like, he felt like there was like, that they were kind of alive there with them more than like actually, you know, technically being alive as plants are. And eventually, right, he's startled and he kind of like turns around because he feels this feeling on his like back and it's like multiplied and kind of like this feeling, kind of like this touch sensation radiates through his entire body. And he just realizes that his friend put his hand on his shoulder to say, hey, come on, let's go. And at this point, Jeffrey is just like, Jeffrey's on a different planet, bro. He's seeing colors, bro, at this point. No, but anyways, he's like, Jeffrey's like, oh, okay, that's good. And his friend's like, come on, man, like, let's go. We got this. And at this point, Jeffrey's starting to realize that maybe this was not a great idea. Maybe this was not the greatest idea he's ever had. And then perhaps, right, this could end badly. So the good thing about this trip that they were going on was that it was to a dinosaur fossil museum type place, but it was really like outside, outdoorsy, because, you know, they didn't like, these weren't like fossils that were chipped away from somewhere and were, you know, placed in a museum. This was actually kind of like an outdoor place that used to be like a swamp or a bog a very long time ago, and they got a lot of footprints, and the whole idea was you and your party would walk around in this enclosed area, and it was outside, and you're able to see all the dinosaur footprints. So it wasn't like, so basically, right, Jeffrey and his friends could, you know, venture out, and not like be in a confined space where they'd be more likely, you know, to be caught or whatever. However, this also meant that Jeffrey and his friends could venture out, which is very bad. That's also not very good. So this is where things start to get interesting, and I don't want to interrupt the flow. So today's secret word is door. Yeah, it has literally nothing to do with the video, but it used to be the old saying, and I have you guys comment on all my videos, so I'm bringing it back for today. So comment door down below. I'm going to filter the comments by, you know, comments that have door in them. I'm going to heart a bunch of them. If I don't get to your comment, don't take it personally. I got a lot of homework to do, but yeah, I'll do my best. Anyways, back to the story. Anyways, right, Jeffrey and his friends, they make their way to where the rest of the group is, and the entire group, with the teacher leading the way, moves kind of to, you know, where the dinosaur, like, footprint museum type thing is. And the teacher kind of goes to them and says, you know, hey, everyone, gather around. So they all kind of gather around. At this point, Jeffrey and his friends are barely able to follow directions or follow instructions, but they're able to follow this. And they also hear the next thing that the teacher says. The teacher says, all right, guys, I don't really have anything planned today. Feel free to wander around and look at what's cool. And this was both a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because, you know, Jeffrey and his friends could, you know, escape, you know, being viewed all the time, but also that meant they escaped being viewed all the time. So the positive was, oh my God, my voice just collapsed in on itself. Anyways, right, so the positive was, right, they weren't going to be caught right away, but the negative was that they had no supervision, and they were definitely not in a position to supervise themselves. So anyways, right, Jeffrey and his friends, they get together, and they start just, like, exploring around. And let me just say that it was a very interesting experience because they were just like going around touching things, looking at things. They all found a fossil. And like when Jeffrey saw the fossil, like it was like a fossil of like a fish or something. He swears the fish was still like swimming in a stream. However, it was like very clearly a fossil in rock, right? But that's just what Jeffrey remembers. I mean, he's like, yeah, okay, my memory might be a little altered. Maybe, I don't know, perhaps. But things start to turn bad when Jeffrey kind of like, he's staring at this one rock, this one fossil, for what he didn't think was a long time, but it was apparently like 5 to 10 minutes of just intense, like, admiring of this rock. And once he's done, he looks up and he looks to his left, he looks to his right, he turns around him, and his friends are gone. No, and he like scans around like much like wider distance. There are people around him. He's not alone right now, but he doesn't recognize any of them. They're all tour groups from, they're like, there's like an old like couple with their grandkids most likely. There's like a married couple with like kids or whatever. None of the kids in his class, none of his friends, the teacher, they're all gone. They're all not there. And he starts to freak out. He's like, did they all leave me? Like, where did they all go? Anyways, right, so at this point, Jeffrey starts to panic because he's separated from his group and he doesn't know where anyone is. And obviously, he can't just, like, it would probably be pretty easy for him normally to be like, oh, let me just, like, find them. But at this point, right, he's not in the best condition to be finding anyone. He's kind of just struggling to get by as it is. So with this kind of induced sense of panic, all like them, like how everything around him used to be like mysterious and interesting and colorful, it all kind of became like super stressful, and he became very anxious as like everything around him started like, it almost felt like it was closing in on him because like everyone he knew was like, they weren't around him, he was gone, and all of a sudden he was all alone by himself. So he starts wandering around, and he's just kind of walking around frantically. And, you know, he kind of, like, looked around, and the people who looked back at him kind of gave him this face of, like, is this kid okay? Is this kid gonna attack me? Like, because, like, Jeffrey was, like, when he was running around, he was not doing so, like, discreetly. He was, like, sprinting around, wide-eyed, just like, where is everyone? Where did they go? And Jeffrey even went up to some people, some random people saying, hey, like, where did they go? Where are they? And the people would be like, I don't know, sir, I'm sorry. And Jeffrey would like run away to like a different corner trying to find them. And at this point, right, when, you know, Jeffrey thought all hope was lost, he checks his phone because his phone starts buzzing. And, you know, who was calling him? His friend. Obviously, he should have thought to do this before, but, you know, as I said before, he's not necessarily in the mental space to be coming up with the best ideas ever. So, yeah, he could have easily called him before, but he didn't. But anyways, he's like, oh, my God. Yeah, he picks it up. He's like, hello? Where are you guys? Where are you guys? And he's like, where are you? And, you know, Jeffrey's like, I don't know, man. And his friend's like, can you describe the environment around you? And Jeffrey says, there's this really big red tree, and it was like a tree with very specific color of leaves or whatever, and the friend's like, I know exactly where you are, don't go anywhere. So anyways, right, Jeffrey's kind of like waiting around there for a second, still kind of like paranoid and worried that like the friend would never come, as like, I don't know, the monsters in the walls would come out and get him, or the dinosaurs would come back to life and eat him or something. And as Jeffrey's like waiting there, starting to like really worry, his friend comes up to him, grabs him by the arm and says, dude, we have to go. Everyone's waiting on the bus. And that just like completely freaked Jeffrey out. He's like, for how long? For how long? And his friend's like, dude, they're just filing on now. If we get there, it's just going to seem like we're late, but it's not going to be suspicious. You need to come with me. Do not act weird. Do not look at anyone. Do not respond to anything. Because at this point, Jeffrey's friend was much less on, or he was just doing better, or he was more with it than Jeffrey was. So he kind of like took control. So they start power walking back to the bus. And eventually they get there and Jeffrey's friend's like, good, good, good. Because kids are still getting on the bus. So he grabs Jeffrey and they get in line. And they realize that like they have to check in. So that means they have to pass the teacher, look him in the face, say their names. And Jeffrey's friend is like, dude, okay, this is going to be really risky. He's like, Jeffrey, I need you to just do something for me. Jeffrey's like, yeah, what's up? I need you to do a very simple thing normally. And Jeffrey's like, okay. His friend's like, Jeffrey, I need you, when we find the teacher, look at the teacher, say, Jeffrey. He'll check you off, and then I need you to walk to the back of the bus. And Jeffrey's like, okay, I can do that. So anyways, right, they get to the bus. Jeffrey's friend goes first, and he turns around before he's like, Jeffrey, please, man, just do it for me. And Jeffrey's like, okay. And Jeffrey's friend, he goes there and does what he needs to do. And then, eventually it's Jeffrey's turn. And Jeffrey, goes up, looks at the teacher. The teacher looks up and then quickly looks down because he's busy, like ticking off names. And he's like, oh, Jeffrey, like, what's up? You can go to the back of the bus. So Jeffrey doesn't even need to say anything. And he barely looks at the teacher, which is pretty lucky because Jeffrey had a very weird look on his face, if you know what I mean. And so Jeffrey walked to the back of the bus where he was sitting with his friend. His friend, like, sees him, is just like, dude, how did it go? What happened? Are you good? And Jeffrey looks at him, gives him the thumbs up, and just sits down. Subscribe if you haven't already, and then now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some that are recommended. Watch it, you'll make me very happy. Today we get a story of this girl who forgets to mute her mic in her Zoom class and gets completely humiliated, and to be honest, it's pretty deserved. You'll see why. But anyways, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just get right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent in today's story on my Instagram in the description. We're going to call her Daily. All right, so this is the last day of Zoom class before they went back to class. And so they all get in Zoom, and it's pretty cool because, like, they're going to be going back in person after this, which is, it's great, whatever. Everyone's kind of excited to see each other. So this is the final day of Zoom class, right? And there's a girl in Daily's class, and we're just going to call her Mean Girl because she was basically the stereotypical mean girl. She was kind of known for, having some people suck up to her, but also being specifically for being really, really just like cruel to other people, including Daily. Anyways, right, so they were having the last class period on Zoom, and, it was kind of standard behavior. No one was really paying attention because in Zoom class, let's be honest, it's pretty easy to, like, get distracted. And anyways, everything was going as normal, but then the thing was, right, the mean girl, right, she forgot to mute her mic. And that was always a huge fear of mine when I was on Zoom class. I was never doing anything suspicious. I was never doing anything that, like, would be bad if my mic wasn't muted. But I was always still terrified. I would, like, triple check, quadruple check. And I also wouldn't do anything that if the mic happened to be on because I didn't check it a fifth time or something, I would never do anything that would get me in trouble like this girl did. So anyways, right now, Daily's kind of sitting there, spacing off. And she's looking, she looks up and she sees the mean girl, and she sees that the mean girl is not muted, which was kind of weird because, like, the mean girl had, like, spoken up to answer a question in class, kind of get those participation points. You got to grind those sometimes. But then, normally when that happens, you just mute afterwards because, like, you're not going to be saying anything. So at this point, the teacher was kind of giving a lecture, so everyone else was muted except the mean girl, which Daily was like, oh, looks like she forgot to mute her mic. And then what happens next, bro? So unlucky for the mean girl, but I mean, hey, man, you kind of had it coming. You kind of had it coming when you were a jerk to everyone for like 6 years. So Daily started watching because, like, everyone's camera was on. You couldn't have your camera off unless, like, you said, oh, I don't have a functioning webcam, which, like, a couple kids did say that. But everyone's camera was supposed to be on, but they were allowed to mute. But Daily was watching the mean girl's webcam, and she noticed that, the mean girl was kind of like going on, like, that she was like, she lifted up her phone and then she heard the mean girl say, "Hey Siri." And at this point, right, Daly was like, "Oh no, bro." Like, "Oh no, bro." And the mean girl goes on to say, "Hey Siri, text," and then, I don't know, let's just call her Audrey. It's one of her friends, right? "Sorry, I can't pick up right now. I'm in class listening to this annoying B word like spew on about nothing important." And Daly's mouth just dropped. And she's like, oh, what? Because at this point, right, the entire class had the exact same reaction of just, whoa, oh no, like, oh no. And the thing is, right, the mean girl has no idea that her mic isn't muted, except for the fact that, like, the teacher who is listening, right, the teacher can hear what's going on in the class because she's doing kind of a lecture, but, she's listening in. Maybe someone needs to raise their hand to ask a question. Maybe maybe something's going on that she needs to attend to. So the teacher has the volume up. There's been some stories I've received where the teacher is like too far away to hear any questions or anything, and that's how some of this like Zoom fails happens. But no, the teacher was right there. And the thing is, right, the mean girl doesn't realize her mic isn't muted until the mean girl starts to realize that the entire class goes silent, including the teacher. Look, I understand going on your phone during Zoom class. I even understand, like, maybe watching a video during Zoom class. Like, I get it, it gets boring, but I would never have the balls to do anything like this. I don't know if it's having the balls or just lacking the brains to do something like this, dude. No, seriously, imagine, like, bad-mouthing your teacher during your Zoom class when you didn't even check to see if you're muted. You just assumed it and just went full-on doing that. Dude, I could never. But anyways, right, so at this point, Daly's just sitting there, and she's just, like, completely shocked. She doesn't necessarily feel bad. Like, I'll be honest, like, she doesn't feel bad at this point 'cause she's like, nah, this girl had it coming. But she looks up at the teacher, and the teacher just, is basically lost for words at this point. And, but not for long. The teacher will not be lost for words for long. Because, Daly, is looking at the mean girl and starts to notice that, like, the mean girl's face is starting to turn to a face of shock as the mean girl starts to realize that, her mic was not muted when she called the teacher, like, an annoying B word, bro. You can't be saying that, dude. You just can't be saying that. Anyways, right, so the teacher eventually breaks the silence. Because it's probably, like, it feels like an hour, but it's definitely only, like, I don't know, 30 seconds of silence, which is a really long time to be silent on Zoom class, especially when they're supposed to be talking, right? But anyways, the teacher, like, eventually says something, and she's like, "Mean girl," I don't know. I'm just going to say mean girl. Whenever the teacher says mean girl, assume the teacher's saying the actual name. But she's like, "Mean girl? Like, I need to talk to you in a private room." So, sure enough, right, the teacher makes one of those private Zoom rooms, like, that she normally, like, I don't know, would put you with a partner or something. And the teacher and the mean girl disappeared from the meeting. And everyone in class, like, half the kids had, like, their hand over their face. There's this one kid who was just laughing hysterically. Daly was just sitting there completely shocked, in a complete daze, like, what is going on right now? Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Zoom down below. That's kind of the secret word of the day. I'm going to heart as many comments as I can that say Zoom, but just know I appreciate it either way. And by the way, while you're down there, make sure the notifications are turned on and you've joined the Discord server. Anyways, right, so Daly's just sitting there and the rest of the class is like, oh my god, like, did this really just happen? And the thing is, right, the teacher and the mean girl, they're gone for like a good solid, I don't know, they're gone for like a good solid 5 minutes. Like, it wasn't a quick, like, hey, you can't be doing that. It was like a berating. She got shellacked in there, dude. It was bad. And the thing is, right, the class was almost done. So by the time that the teacher came back, the mean girl did not rejoin the Zoom. I think the mean girl was just either told to leave or left on her own accord. And the teacher said, "Hey class, due to like unforeseen circumstances, we will be ending class 5 minutes early. I'm excited to see you guys tomorrow and make sure to do the homework." And then the teacher's like, bye, just leaves. Normally the teacher's the last one there when everyone else is leaving to just make sure that there aren't any questions or anything like that. And let me just say that you might be thinking the awkwardness ended there. Don't forget that they're seeing each other in person the next day. And the awkwardness and the humiliation, trust me, it continues. Anyways, right, so the next day rolls around, and this is the first day that they have in-person classes. So daily, she rolls into school and she goes to her other classes, but it's finally this class. Let's just say this is a history class. So history class is the last class of the day. She gets there, and Daly's a decent enough student. She gets there like a minute early. Like, she gets there a little early. She's not showing up like 5 minutes late or anything. And she gets there, and there's like 2 students there. And who was one of the 2 students? Yeah, the mean girl. And the mean girl was always 5 minutes late to this class. She was always showing up late. But nope, this time the mean girl is nice and early to show the teacher that she is very respectful. Unfortunately, that did not do anything. That did not prevent what is about to happen. Anyway, so the rest of the class, files in, and the teacher goes up to the board. She's like, guys, I'm so excited to see you guys here today. It's just so nice to be in person again. She said, all right, so we're going to be talking about, I don't know, Revolutionary War. But before that, I have a special little 5 to 10 minute segment I thought was very important due to recent events that we shall be covering. And Daly in her mind is like, oh no, bro. Because the teacher goes on to talk about respect and how important it is to be respectful. And due to recent events, and she really said like recent events with like some emphasis, and everybody in the class knew exactly what the recent event was, which was, the thing I just told you about. And she's like, respect, it's a building block of the community. If you don't respect me, I don't respect you. And look, the mean girl, bro, she's just trying to be as small as possible in the corner. She got there early to try and flip the tables a little bit, try and be like, I'm respecting you. Nope. No, she's trying to shrink away at this point. And the teacher goes on for like 10 whole minutes on this tirade. And Daly is sitting there. She's cringing. It's awkward, but she also has a little bit of satisfaction because this girl had it coming. Subscribe if you haven't already, and now go click on one of the 4 videos on screen or watch another one of my videos in the recommended. Thank you. Peace. Today we get a story of this kid that while doing a presentation for his class in front of everyone is caught on an Spaghetti-O website, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's completely embarrassing, but it's also pretty funny. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. And let's call today's subscriber who sent in the story. Let's call him Brandon. Anyways, right, Brandon was in class one day, and he had this friend who we're just going to call Ben because I call everyone in the story Ben besides the main character. So Brandon's kind of just sitting at a table in class, and his friend Ben is there, and Ben kind of turns to him and says, like, yo, and, I don't know, Brandon's like, hey, what's up, dude? And Ben's like, dude, it's going to be, like, dude, this is going to be so funny. And Brandon's like, dude, what do you mean? And, Ben's like, bro, you know how we have a presentation tomorrow? And Brandon's like, yeah, like, have you been doing that? And, Ben's like, well, no, because of what, like, you're about to hear. And Brandon's like, dude, you should be doing the presentation. That's a huge part of your grade. And Ben's like, chill. 1 second. Like, at least hear what I'm trying to say. And Brandon's like, all right, like, what's going on? And Ben looks at Brandon and says, dude, I'm going to go up there. And you know how the presentation is like a PowerPoint presentation? And Brandon's like, yes. And Ben's like, bro, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to, dude, I'm going to show the funniest thing on screen ever. Dude, everyone's going to be laughing. It's going to be so great. And Brandon's just like, what are you going to show on there? And Ben is like, dude, I'm going to show a very special website. I'm going to go on a very special website and just like put on a very special video. And Brandon's looking at him like, you don't mean, and Ben looks at him and nods. And Brandon's like, bro, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Why would you do that? And Ben's like, dude, it's going to be so funny. Like, just wait. And Brandon's like, no, you're not going to do that. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. One, I don't actually think it's that funny. It's like, yeah, I guess I'd laugh and people are going to laugh at how ridiculous it is. They're not going to be like, wow, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. 2, you're going to fail the assignment. And 3, you're going to get in a ton of trouble. And Ben's like, bro, you're overthinking it, but I do need you to do one thing. And Brandon's like, dude, I am not helping you with this. I'm not joining in on this. I'm not going to have any part of this. And Ben is like, dude, please, you can do this discreetly. No one even has to know that you're doing this, but can you just film me when I go up and film everyone's reactions? You can be super discreet. You can just be like, I was being on my phone. Like, it's totally fine. Like, no one's going to even know. I'm doing this one way or another, but I really need someone to film it. And Brandon's just looking at Ben like, bro, you cannot be serious. Like, don't do this. This is ridiculous. And eventually, like, Brandon's like, all right, dude, fine. Like, I'll record it or whatever, but just know I don't approve of what you're doing. I think it's really dumb. And I almost know for a fact you're going to get in a buttload of trouble. So anyways, right, the next day comes around and that's the day everyone's doing their presentation. And sure enough, right, Brandon is sitting there. He's gone up. He's done his presentation. He's done a good job. The presentations are really mundane. No one is really paying attention. And finally, it's time for Ben to go up there and do his presentation. And Brandon has been sitting there the whole time, really just hoping that Ben changed his mind, even though he did know deep down that Ben, in fact, had not changed his mind. Like, he knew that Ben was just going to be on his nonsense as usual. However, Brandon was really just hoping maybe like, I don't know, Ben had an epiphany of how stupid an idea this was and decided to really buckle down and do the project last minute, but nevertheless do the project. Anyways, right, it's finally Ben's turn, and he goes up because he has to walk to the front of the room to connect to give the presentation. And as he's walking up to the front of the room, he stops at Brandon's desk and like whispers in his ear, like, start recording. And, Brandon's kind of annoyed because he was going to start recording either way. Like, he did make a promise to Ben that he'd record it. And now he just looks suspicious because, like, yeah, no one knew what was about to happen. But in retrospect, everyone's going to remember that, like, Ben went up to Brandon and whispered something to him before he did his big practical prank in front of everyone. So Brandon was a little annoyed, but he definitely, like, he whipped out his phone, pretended to be on it, but was recording the front of the room. And, so Ben is walking up there. Ben connects his computer to the projector, goes up and is like, all right, guys, here's my presentation. And he flips the thing on. The first slide is normal. It is like, all right, today we have a presentation on covalent bonds. Dude, I don't know what the class was in. Let's just say that. He's like, today we have a presentation on covalent bonds. So the first slide was going to be like a normal slide. And then, like, Brandon was looking at him like, oh, wait, did he actually do a normal thing? Brandon was just holding out a little bit of hope that Ben had come to his senses. But yeah, no. So Brandon is sitting there and watches as Ben has a little bit of a smirk on his face, a little bit of a smirk, because Ben is about to flip to slide 2. Sure enough, Ben clicks the thing on the projector. It goes to the next slide on the PowerPoint. And you know what it is? He somehow embedded a video in there, and he's like, all right, guys, now we're going to watch a very important video about covalent bonds. He clicks the play button, and I don't want to go into too much detail so that YouTube doesn't thunderbolt my stuff. But yeah, a video from a very forbidden website starts playing. And the other thing is, right, Ben made sure to crank up the volume, and also when he got control of it, to crank up the volume, not just on the video, but on the machine. So the video was full volume, the machine emanating the sound was full volume. So when this thing started playing, it was like blasting. And to be fair, like, to Ben's credit, the whole class did start laughing. Brandon did say that wasn't going to happen. However, Brandon was very much correct about literally everything else that he predicted, because sure enough, the whole class burst into laughter. Ben is up there kind of feeling good because he just, like, everyone's like reacting positively, until Ben looks around and sees the teacher, who is understandably not acting as positively. The teacher is like, what is this on screen? What is this playing in my classroom? This is so, like, against every rule here. Like, turn that thing off immediately and then go straight to the principal's office. And Brandon was sitting there like, all right, Ben, like, I told you, dude, this was going to happen, and this was a bad idea. And the thing is, right, Brandon did hold his end of the deal, and he was recording the whole thing. And the teacher, who is steaming mad at Brandon at this point, looks around at the classroom and sees that Brandon, or steaming mad at Ben, sees that Brandon has been recording the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, right, the teacher points at Brandon and says, you there, the guy recording this, go to the principal's office as well. And Brandon's like, I had nothing to do with it. He says, I don't want to hear it right now. Comment teacher down below if you want to heart on your comment. Today's secret word is teacher. I'm going to heart as many comments as I can that say teacher. And while you're down there, make sure notifications are turned on. You've joined the Discord server and have followed my Instagram, which is where you submit your stories. Anyways, right, Brandon is so pissed right now because he's like, dude, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't even want to do anything. I told this kid, like Ben, that this was a stupid idea and that he was going to get in trouble. And eventually, right, Brandon catches up to Ben because Ben has already started walking to the principal's office by the time the teacher kicked him out. And Brandon comes up to Ben. He's like, dude, I'm in trouble too. I don't know why. And Ben turns to Brandon like, bro, I'm so sorry. Like, you're so right. This is so stupid. I wish I didn't get you involved in all of this. And Brandon's like, all right, well, either way, I'm involved in this, but you got to make sure that you tell them the truth that I had nothing to do with this. And Ben is like, dude, 100%, I got you. So they go in there, they go to the principal's office. And the principal's like, well, the teacher just called and told me what happened. Like Ben, like, you know that's like, you cannot do that. Like, that is a huge violation of our rules. Like, you just blasted extremely inappropriate content in front of everyone. Like, the teacher has a right to be extremely mad. You'll probably fail that assignment, and I have no idea where your standing will be in the class afterwards. And for punishment here, like, we still got to figure that out. It's like, at a minimum, you're going to fail the assignment plus whatever. So Ben is feeling pretty terrible. And then the principal turns to Brandon and is like, Brandon, I kind of thought better of you. Like, Ben has been in trouble in the past, but you're not really the type, I thought at least, the type to get in trouble like this. And Brandon looks at the principal like, you have to understand, like, I was telling Ben that this was a bad idea and to not do this. And the principal's like, I don't know if I believe you, like, you were recording it. And, Brandon doesn't admit, he said, like, Ben told me he was going to do it either way, and I just wanted someone to record it. And I said, okay. However, I kept telling Ben, like, it's a terrible idea and that he shouldn't do it. And, Brandon was like, yeah, maybe in retrospect, recording it wasn't a good idea, but you have to understand, I had nothing to do with this. In fact, I was against it the whole time. And the principal, she's looking at Brandon. She's kind of giving him a look. And she says, Brandon, I know that you weren't involved, but you shouldn't have been recording it either way. Like, that's in a way kind of promoting it. However, right, since it seems like you were very much against, like, what, your friend was doing, I don't really know. And she turns to Ben and she said, Ben, can you confirm this? And Ben says, yes, 100%. He was telling me again and again not to do it. I basically told him I was going to do it either way. He explained why it was bad. And, like, Brandon's a good kid. Please don't get him in trouble. And the principal's like, fine, Brandon, you're good. Just don't do anything like this ever again. And if anyone is going to do something stupid, instead, just don't involve yourself in any way, or we will probably, or next time, you will get in trouble. And with that, Brandon left, and Ben got in a lot of trouble. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. Today, I got a pretty crazy story that I know you guys will enjoy, and we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story, we're going to call him Liam. And by the way, submit stories to my Instagram, or just go ahead and follow it, even if you're not going to submit stories. It's on screen. But anyways, right, so this all happened one day when Liam, the subscriber who submitted the story, was just hanging out with his friends. So for context, Liam was in high school. He was a junior in high school, and today was a Sunday. Basically, the idea was he was going over to do a project with his friends, and his plan was just honestly just to, like, stay the night, and they'll all go into school tomorrow the next day. Normally, his parents weren't big fans of, like, sleepovers on weeknights, but they didn't really care because the whole plan, or what they thought the whole plan, was that Liam was going over there to do some work with them, and might as well just go in the next day. The thing was, right, there was no project. Liam just wanted to hang out with the boys on Sunday as well. That's a little detail that hopefully Liam's parents will not be watching this video, because Liam has said that he has not told them yet that that was actually the case. But anyways, so for the entire Sunday, they're there, they're just chilling, playing Xbox, doing whatever they're doing. And one of Liam's friends, and we're just going to call him Ben, because that's the name I always go to, man. I don't know why. Ben comes down, and he has a plate of brownies. He's like, bro, these are the greatest brownies of all time. Dude, they are so fire. Like, I put a little secret sauce in them. Trust me, they're fantastic. And, this Ben hands them out to everyone, including Liam. And Liam was looking around. And while he didn't realize it at the moment, he now realizes in retrospect. Liam was looking around, and everyone kind of had a smirk on their face. Everyone had a little bit of a smirk. And Liam didn't know why. And he was like, all right, they're just being weird. These are the boys. It happens, right? And Liam's like, all right, well, I don't really want mine now, but I'm going to have it for breakfast tomorrow. So he gets a napkin, wraps it up, and puts in his backpack or whatever. Because he did bring his backpack over because he needed it for school the next day. And, they just kind of went about their business, played more Xbox, I don't know, did whatever else they did. And the next day rolls around and they all wake up and they're all groggy because they went to bed at like 4 in the morning because high school, man, it happens. And sure enough, when Liam wakes up, he gets down, he's like, oh, shoot, I gotta go out soon. He was gonna go get, I don't know, cereal, have something really good for breakfast, right? But he was running late, so he gets his stuff. All of his friends were like, come on, man, you're gonna miss the bus. We gotta go quickly. They all go out the door and they walk down to the bus stop, and, the bus stop's there. Yeah, the school bus stop's there. They get on, they sit down, and Liam sits with one of his friends. And so Liam is like, damn, like I'm kind of hungry. I wasn't able to eat anything. He's like, oh, wait, we're good. I have the brownie that I was given last night. Like, look, starting your day with sugar isn't the greatest thing ever. Like maybe a brownie, but what else was he going to eat? Like sugar cereal? I mean, it's not that much different. At least that was the justification Liam told himself. Liam, in retrospect, wished that he just wished he had no breakfast at that point, but you'll see why in a second. So anyways, right, the friend that Liam is sitting with watches as Liam takes the brownie out of his backpack, unwraps it, and like Liam actually looks over at him and says, hey, do you want any? And his friend smiles and says, nah, bro, I'm good. Like, are you sure you want to eat that? And Liam's like, yeah. And his friend's like, all right, man, like, okay, like you're gonna have a fun day today. And Liam's like, in his head, he isn't getting it at this point. He isn't getting it. In his head, he's like, yeah, I'll have a fun day because I'll start the day with a great brownie. What? Like, okay, I guess. Like, that's fair enough, I guess. So anyways, right, Liam, bites into the brownie. It's a great brownie, by the way. It is fantastic. And Liam finishes it. He's like, damn, man, that was really good. You're right. I am going to have a good day. His friend is just looking at him and, like, laughing. And Liam's like, I guess we're all in a good mood today. Fair enough. So anyways, Liam gets off the bus and he goes to his first period of class. And he's sitting there in class. And he's just like, he's got this, like, little bit of a feeling start to rush over him. It's not like a rush, but he just starts to feel it a little bit. He's just like, all right, this is a little strange. This is not a normal feeling. Like, I can tell that something's up. I don't totally know what's up, but I can tell something's up. And one of Liam's friends, who was with him the night before, actually walks up to him after class. Because at this point, Liam's starting to feel a little weird. And Liam is just, like, kind of looking around. He's like, okay, something's up. Maybe I ate something the last couple days that isn't sitting well with me. Because, like, I'm feeling a little weird. I don't really know how to say it. Like, my focus is a little strange. I'm just feeling a little strange, right? And one of Liam's friends, when he walks up to him, puts his hand on his shoulder, is like, hey, man, I heard you had the brownie this morning. And Liam's like, yeah, like, it's pretty good. Like, tell Ben, like, thanks for making them. And the friend's like, dude, like, that's crazy that you ate it before school. At this point, Liam still doesn't understand what's going on. And Liam's like, bro, why is everyone saying this? It's just a brownie. And Liam's friend has, like, the smile on his face starts to dissolve because he realizes, oh, wait, Liam doesn't know. And Liam's looking at his friend as he's starting to feel the effects of this brownie, right? He's looking at his friend, and he's just like, he's starting to realize that something's up because he sees his friend's smiles slowly start to dissolve. And Liam's like, no. And his friend's like, bro, I thought you knew. And at that point, Liam realized that this was no ordinary brownie. This was a brownie with a very special plant in it. A very special plant that makes you feel very special. And there was probably a lot in it because if you don't know, if you were to ingest this special plant in food, a lot of times you can ingest a ton of it and you'll have some pretty crazy experiences. I do not recommend at all. Disclaimer, a little disclaimer for everyone watching this. Don't do what's in this video, just entertainment purposes only. But yes, at this moment, Liam realized, oh no, dude, I just ate a special brownie and I'm going to be here for the rest of I can't get caught. If you made it this far into the video, comment brownie down below as that's the secret word of the day. And also, if you want to help me kind of boost the channel back into the algorithm, and I know that we can do it, just binge watch a bunch of these videos. Maybe you're going to play some video games or clean your room or write something or do art or something. In the background, if you can just have my videos be playing, Let me know in the comments if you're doing that. Say like, oh, I'm binge watching number 4. Like, tell me what binge watch video you're on right now. I will try hearting it and replying and saying thank you. Because the reason why we did so well a couple months ago is because you guys were watching the videos and binge watching them, and I appreciate it. I really do. Anyways, let's get back to the story, because we got a lot more ground to cover, dude. This is crazy. Anyways, right, so Liam is starting to like feel a little panicky. And let me just say that if this is happening to you, the worst thing you can do is panic, because you will panic and you will start spiraling. It's a little different for everyone, obviously, but you will start spiraling. And Liam was a little bit aware of this, so he's like, all right, I gotta calm down. He's like, as long as no one calls it, as long as I get to my classes, I get to lunch, I get to my other classes, and I just sit down, and I'm not weird, I'm going to be fine. I won't be expelled. I'll be totally okay. As long as no one calls on me to answer a question. God, please. And so anyways, Liam just gets to the next class, sits down, and starts to really feel the effects of this very special brownie, right? He's like, oh, God, dude. At this point, he can't focus in on anything. Like, the sounds around him are just going crazy. It's like... it's not a great experience. Like, especially when you're in class and you're freaking out, it's not good, right? So he's sitting there, and then he feels a tap on his shoulder. He's like, he looks up all startled or whatever, and he sees the teacher, and his head, he's like, oh my God. And then he hears the teacher say, like, Liam, the bell rang, did you not hear it? And Liam's like, oh, sorry, grabs his backpack, quickly runs out of the classroom. Doesn't sprint or anything. He's not going to do some like Naruto run, just dash out of there or anything. But he got his butt out of there pretty quickly, is what I'm trying to say. And he gets to the lunchroom. He finds his friends. He sits down. He's like, boys. And they look at him. He's like, boys, I need help. And they're all like, bro, I thought you knew, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just kind of like, I know I didn't say it explicitly. I just implied it. Everyone else got it. I'm sorry. And Liam's like, dude, it doesn't matter. You're fine. What matters is getting me through the rest of the day. And the good thing was that Liam had one of his boys in all the classes coming up. So he had 2 more classes, and he had a friend in both of them. So he's like, all right, we got to stick together. What was I saying? And then his friends are like, oh, okay, we got to take it over from here. So anyways, the plan was that Liam was going to stick close to the other 2 friends, and that hopefully by the last period, it's going to wear down. Because at this point, Liam was not even responding that well. They're like, all right, hopefully this is the peak. And one of the friends turns to Ben and is like, bro, how much of this special ingredient did you put into these brownies? And Ben's like, dude, this is supposed to knock us out for like a day. And they're like, bro, why? And Ben's like, I don't know. I thought it'd be fun. So they got a little problem on their hands. And the rest of the story will be told from a mixed perspective of both Ben and the friends as well as Liam, because Liam got the full story a couple days later from them. So anyways, right, Ben and his friends are moving Liam to the classroom. And they're moving him there, and Liam, thankfully, is not doing anything too crazy. The good thing is that, he's very, he's not freaking out. He's not, super jittery, which could have been an outcome because of the stress of the situation. And the levels of secret sauce, Krabby Patty secret formula that was in that brownie. There was a decent chance he would have been completely freaking out, but he was actually staying pretty calm, pretty cool and collected. However, if you asked him something, he was more or less non-responsive. So they get him to the classroom, and the teacher's like, hey, Liam, hey, Ben. And Ben is like, hey, Miss Johnson, how's it going? And trying to this make up for the fact that Liam did not even acknowledge anything. And Miss Johnson's like, oh, very good. Sit down, guys. We have a lot planned for today. So Liam and Ben, they sit down, and Ben is just thinking to himself, oh, my God, please be a chill day. Maybe be a movie day. Maybe be a day where, we're just looking at the textbook. And Miss Johnson is like, all right, class, so I'm going to split you guys into groups, and we're going to have a trivia war. And Ben was like, no, dude, no. This is the worst possible outcome. This is legitimately the worst situation besides Miss Johnson walking up and being, hey, Liam, how much Krabby Patty secret formula have you been having recently? Like, that would have been like slightly worse, but this was up there. And so sure enough, Liam is like, please just let Ben to be on my team. Just let Ben to be on my team. And because, you know, he was so unlucky for the rest of the day, maybe the gods just gave him a little bit more luck. And sure enough, Ben and Liam were on the same team. And so anyways, it's like a trivia battle. It's supposed to be super fun and it's very low stakes. But anyways, Ben has been thinking to himself, Liam's not going to be responsive. And he's like, all right, maybe he's down a little bit more. Maybe he can understand. So he whispers to, Ben whispers to Liam. He's like, bro, when I tell you to say something, say it. And, you know, Liam kind of looks at him, smiles a little bit, is like, all right. And Ben is saying to himself, there's a 30% chance this goes well. Please, God, help me. So anyways, the teacher starts going down the line, and they're doing the trivia, whatever. And it comes to Ben. Ben answers it. Ben actually knows the answers. He's pretty on top of his stuff. And eventually, you know, she says, all right, Liam. And Liam kind of looks up. What is, and then asks a question. And quickly, Ben is like, all right, I know the answer. Turns to Liam, whispers, and says, say, and then the answer. And Liam looks up and is like, just says exactly what Ben told him to say. And the teacher's like, oh, very good. And then Ben is just like, oh my God, that was close. And eventually the class ends and off to the next class. So now Ben is handing Liam over to the other friend. And we're just going to call this friend John because, I don't know, I just came up with a new name. So John gets Liam, and John's like, yo, Ben, like, what's the state? And Ben's like, dude, I had the closest call today. We had a trivia battle in class. I had to give him the answer. Oh, my God. And thankfully, right, oh, my God, my voice just collapsed. Sounded, yeah, I'm going to replay that. I just had like a thing of phlegm stuck in my throat, and it like somehow manipulated the voice waves to make me sound, I don't even know what I sounded like. But anyways, right, eventually it is Liam and, what do I call him? John? Yeah, John, this friend. They get to the next class. Thankfully, it's like a lecture class, so it's literally just John and Liam sitting there, and they're just listening to the lecture. Obviously, Liam's not retaining too much of the information. But by the end of the class, Liam turns to John. He's like, bro, I think I'm doing a little better. What just happened for the last 2 hours? And John's like, bro, we got you through it. You don't need to worry about it. So anyways, right, and Liam's like, dude, I still got to go home to my parents. And John's like, shoot, like, do you think you can do it? And Liam's like, yeah, no, I got it. So eventually they get back in the bus to bring them back home. And Liam's sitting on the bus. He's hyping himself back up. He's sitting next to Ben, and Ben's like, bro, I can splash you with cold water. And Liam's like, I don't think that's necessary. And splashes him with cold water. And Ben's like, bro, you're going to need everything. And Liam's like, okay, I didn't ask for the splash of cold water, but I appreciate it. In fact, it actually did help him out a little bit. And he got back home. And he was actually doing pretty well. He held an entire conversation with his mom. He went straight upstairs and fell right asleep. And he slept for like 12 hours that day just to wake up the next day. And he's like, okay, back to school. And anyways, right, he didn't get in trouble. Liam survived. Moral of the story is please make sure that there's no Krabby Patty secret formula in any of your breakfast if you have it before you go to school. Yeah. All right, leave a like, watch another video. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.